Excuse me. Oh, I forgot to get water. Okay. I realize, in fact, I still remember when people got mad about the Sims title. So, if you are watching on YouTube and the title made you think that there is something about that damn library game, this is just a normal cultist simulator stream. The titles that I will choose for Twitch broadcasts tend to have a certain context which is not immediately apparent on YouTube. I am a very big Weather Factory fan, but I do not have private information about what is going on inside of that company, and I do not want anybody to think otherwise. So if you are here for library game content, that is not here. That is just a very elaborate way of saying I am playing Cultist Simulator for people who will be viewing a website which has a big sign that says I'm playing Cultist Simulator. So this is Cultist Simulator. Any mention of the library game will be anecdotal and contain already publicly available information. Also, again, I'm becoming really aware of the fact that this is a pretty big game for me on YouTube. If you are wondering what happened to last week's video, that wasn't there because of Dirty Rectangles, which is a local game dev collective, which meets the 3rd of every month, so I don't do a video for that, but I would have announced that I was doing that in the previous Cultist Simulator video, which had a very low viewership, and I know exactly why, because the first hour of it had me playing a really interesting Kickstarter called Under Stranger Stars, and because I probably spent about an hour of it in the game, the YouTube thumbnails basically automatically loaded Under Stranger Stars, and of course the title was long enough that probably it didn't indicate Cultist Simulator at the top. So if you are here for Cultist Simulator stuff and you really want to see every last hour that I've played of Cultist Simulator, there is a video which only a handful of people have seen. If it's Under Stranger Stars, you just click on that one, move about an hour, probably an hour 10 minutes if memory serves. If you want to see the bit of Cultist Simulator I did. If you didn't want to see every waking minute and are just happy to see this video, this will be pure Cultist Simulator. But I do recommend that you check out Under Stranger Stars. It's got about a week left in its Kickstarter. It is pretty far from the goal, but they have put a lot of effort. They've got a new demo out. They've got a new trailer that they're making. I think it's a really cool little project, and again, I found Cultist Simulator back when it was an alpha before there was a Kickstarter, so this is the way you find cool new games. Now, for those of you who are live, I see you there, Galva850. I am very thirsty, and I forgot to fill my glass of water before I started, so I'm going to leave you with the Who is Responsible window. I'm going to be gone for about a minute and a half. Oh my god, there's so many people here. Jamie Sam, good to see you again. Square Utzer, SQR Utzer. Welcome, how are you doing? If you guys can just bear with me a quick second, I should have got water before I started, but I know I was rushing to get the stream started within my sort of 1 hour window. So give me a minute and a half at most. I just want to have a glass of water because I'm still not 100% on health, but I definitely want to give you a full Cultist Simulator stream. So see you guys in a minute. I'm sorry I wasn't more prepared. All right, thank you for your patience. Also, a few of you have sent some very nice comments on YouTube, and I've been really bad at getting back to those. So I will try and I'll try and finish that before I go to bed tonight. But I'm lazy. So, anyways, Cultist Simulator. It's going to take me a little bit to get back onto the board, so I'm going to try and jump into the game a little bit earlier than before. People always like to remind me how long it takes for the openings, and I'd like to state for the record now, I actually watched a professional streamer. 30 minutes. nothing even like news or talking. It was just 30 minutes of like video introduction and music and sounds and stuff like that. So you guys are getting off light. Tall Man Alive, I know you're looking forward to Cultist Simulator. But as always, credit where credit is due. Design, writing, and coding by Alexis Kennedy at Alexis Kennedy on Twitter. Production, marketing, and biz, Lottie Bevan at Tron Bevan on Twitter. The company Weather Factory at Factory Weather. Hello, Le Chauffeur. UI design and coding, Martin Nerukar, who has got his game Nowhere Profit. Still more things being added to the game. Still a very interesting game. Check it out. I believe it's still only available on itch, but you will get a copy of you will get a Steam copy if you buy it on itch. We've got art by Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, and Sarah Gordon. Music by Mary Beth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Erb for Mickey Mar Productions Limited. Mary Beth Solomon, I believe, lives in the same province as me and is equally unimpressed with our provincial government right now. So I am very happy to have politics in my games, especially when my musicians, not my musicians, but the musicians I list to agree with my politics. For those of you who enjoy this lovely music, there is a soundtrack for this game available on Steam. I also think it's available on Humble. I'm not too sure. But you can buy this soundtrack. You can also listen to it on the various streaming platforms. So if you're an Apple Music user or a Spotify user, you can listen to it on there. You can also get it on things like Apple Music or I think Amazon or I don't know. Apparently there's some organization that handles all of that. But if you like the music, if you want to support, if you want to support things like that and you enjoy it, I always like shouting that sort of stuff out because obviously it is hard to make a living doing this sort of creative stuff, and if you enjoy it enough that you want to hear it on a regular basis, if you don't feel that your workday is spooky enough, or if you just want to feel like you are plumbing the depths of unknown mysteries while you're at work, the soundtrack is rather good for that. I feel like Glover and Glover is just a little bit more bearable every time I have this on. Audio by Soundcuts, additional writing by Lottie Bevan, additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, and Mark Gagnier. Lara Sider, very active on the Cultist Simulator Discord, which I don't really participate on that much, but it was also very active inside of chat during the Steam stream, which was very lovely, very pleasant individual, and I believe also is responsible for the Frangiclave, which is sort of a resource available if you're interested in modding this game or just generally want to see how these different tools work. Additional design by Callan Porter. Special thanks to Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, who's got a new job now. I don't remember the studio name, but they're the ones who are doing the Gears of War Funko Pop game. And literally everyone who has ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. All right. Where was I? Or where were we? Okay, so Forlorn Blood, but I don't believe we have a special package to help me with that yet, so that will be exciting. I've got a subtle rupture and a rattling in the soul to deal with. Won't be able to actually combine these into anything, but good to know that I have it. Oh yes, and all manner of disasters about to hit us. So we have got our work cut out for us. Let me take a minute to think about what I'm up to. Creeping color, my passions are poisoned. Each pang of emotion brings an answering pang of savage gray. Holy smokes, I don't remember this. I'm pretty sure this is an attack from the from Lady Trifon. Connie Lee is currently investigating me. Now, I believe we got rid of whatever evidence emerged last time. I do have some notoriety, though. There's the possibility that I'll be able to get a heart follower to spike it, but I'm not so confident on it. I think probably it would be better that I just I let what will be, and I can maybe focus on getting the Callagine to eat up the evidence. I can even sort of trap them in a talk cycle to get that taken care of. As far as work is concerned, oh well, we're summoning another one. Oh, okay. So I've already got one tampering with evidence. So great news. That's excellent thinking on my part. I'm very impressed with myself. I know the paradoxical curio will be helpful in summoning. Sometimes it is hard to be sure if the arrow slew the Empress Herodias or Emperor Eudokia. Sometimes it is possible that an Ormlu clock was stolen in the sack of Vienna, even as it rested safe in the vaults of Rome. Okay, so I really need to decide what I want to do with... dreaming. I have a feeling I'll go through the stag door, but let me just take a quick minute. I kind of want to smell the roses and see what I'm up against. So I'm going to be getting erudition here, eventually evidence, whatever actions coming up. We'll figure out what the creeping color does. And I am sick, and I will continue to be sick as a result of the forlorn blood. So what I will do here instead, I'm going to set that aside. I will instead use funds or vitality if I get it to heal myself. Season of Despair is coming up, so I don't need to worry too much about the despair, but when I do eventually heal myself through Roland's blood, I will have to deal with the fascination that emerges. In this case, the Fleeting Reminiscence would have been the way to handle that, but obviously I won't have that in time for any any healing that I do. As far as expeditions are concerned, okay, Key Hunter's Garret. Once in Vienna, we hear that the Key Hunter has not been seen for many days. A local drunk insists that a great serpent entered the house to devour them. Certainly the house is unlit and boarded up, and there is a reptile house smell. Expeditions need at least 1 funds per obstacle. Followers will defeat obstacles. If you run out of funds or followers, the expedition ends. Now, there's a good argument for me putting some knock people inside. I'm not going to explain exactly why I know that on the odd chance that some of you haven't played the game and don't know quite how that works. And I'm going to have at least 1 knock follower occupied while I do a summoning. So it may just be that I wind up hammering out my usual heavy edge, but we'll see what other challenges come up. We do still have quite a bit to do as far as the expeditions are concerned, but I'll try and get through those as quickly as I can because I don't want Douglas stealing any of my locations. And of course, with the Season of Ambition coming up to hopefully give me the blood, that'll be a little bit of a challenge to make everything balance out. So, we're ready to unpause. Okay. My minion has returned, the evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. So, I think I am going to try... I'm just going to try talking to it. It's very unlikely that Connie Lee will process the evidence in time, but it does give me something to do. Of course, this does mean that this one is going to be running down, which maybe isn't great, but... what else do we have? I mean, again, I'm not too worried about running this one down because we've got the next summoning coming up. Okay, there's my erudition. This would normally be the time that I want to try and upgrade some lore, and the Forbidden Epic has a pretty good argument for it because obviously we've already got Fox Lily Meadows, which is the last one for... It's not the continent, it's the land beyond the forest. So eventually we'll be investigating unresolved ambiguities, but of course my study is going to be taken up with things like things like studying. So how are you doing, Lumpy Space? It's great to see you again. I think the last stream that you were here, it was like the first time I haven't shouted you out as a streamer in a while, so let me just take a quick minute here and say Lumpy Space is not even really establishing themselves as a streamer. Oh my goodness, they changed my green color. How dare they? Lumpy is setting themselves up as a streamer. I don't even want to say like a new streamer or even setup is arguably a bit of an old-fashioned sentiment because they've been quite consistent with it. A lot of Mortal Kombat, and it's worth mentioning. I mean, I always knew them as a sort of a viewer of Johnny Big Times, and I'm a huge fan of Johnny's, but more so as a very pleasant member inside of chat. And I can't remember. I kind of feel like you've been in here for a while, and like maybe I just didn't notice as much, but I've definitely been noticing Lumpy a lot more, and it might just be because of the streaming thing or that. But obviously, very pleasant to have inside of chat, and I especially like doing these kinds of recommendations. One, because when I was starting streaming, I definitely benefited a lot from people sort of recommending me, even though I was something of an untested proposition. But of course, number two, Lumpy's really pleasant inside of my own stream, and so I have a feeling that it is a safer recommendation for people than just saying some random person, oh, I really hope that they're not a jerk. Again, I know fighting games are not 100% what the Cultist Simulator audience wants to watch, but if you do like good streams, if you like, especially like people who really demonstrate the passion for the game that they're playing, I definitely can recommend Lumpy in that sense. So definitely feel free to do that, and at least some of the debt is now repaid. So got some dread to contend with now. I don't think Fleeting Reminiscence helps that. It's still contentment. Indeed it is. This is actually going to be particularly inconvenient now because the Season of Despair has emerged. The question is, can I buy opium in time? And I think the answer to that is no. So it's possible I could paint my way out of the problem, and I may do that. But at this point, I mean, the best that I can really hope for would be to pay for it, and I'm not quite that desperate yet. So we'll run with it. Nope, and here we go. Not all of Forge's children are bright. It's offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like hammer scale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. So, at the corners of the forge and the bounds of the mantis, the glory's fire meets the baser elements. Here is a cunning vapor to infect your enemy's dreams. And Enid did some great summoning work for me, so she gets her spot back there, and we'll put the sunset right back in place. So, let's think a little bit about what I want to do with my my work. So I can sort of fulfill my my missions, if you will. I can attempt to work at Glover and Glover, but of course this has the risk of notoriety, and I'm going to be generating more notoriety as a result of my expeditions. I can try and use up some of these influences, which is what I originally wanted them for. But I think what's going to wind up happening is I'm going to, so this is going to become Dread, and if one of these become Dread, I'm in quite a pickle. So I'm going to let the work, I'm going to let the counter wind down a little bit. Then I'm going to paint using the Dread. In the best case scenario, I get some contentment that I can use to neutralize it. Worst case scenario, I don't get anything, and I've sort of wasted the effort, but it's a little bit of a risk that I'm willing to take on this one, just because if I can get rid of it, so much the better. Especially because obviously Dread would be very helpful for getting rid of the fascination that will emerge when I use the blood on my Forlorn blood. I should also be paying attention to the expedition. But again, I really don't know how that's going to turn out. So we've got a hidden door. Hidden doors can be found with lantern or knock. And then we've also got the younger sister. The mother of ants was born among serpents. She has so very many younger sisters. It can be defeated in battle, or it will respond to the mother's power. So there's a little bit of a hint inside there in terms of how to beat that thing. Normally I would probably be trying to use, I'd try and take advantage of my high edge to take this thing out. But in this particular case here, I do need to deal with the hidden door, and I don't have anybody who's really good at, oh, actually, it also occurred to me, in the worst case scenario, I can always, oh, nope, that's not right. I was thinking I'd be able to build another trap, but Okay. Just in time. So I'll throw a notoriety in there just because I want to be a jerk to Connie. Oh, you know what? This is going to gobble up the dread anyway. I didn't plan this out properly because the magnet's going to eat that anyway. Oh well. Okay, Season of Ambitions, no real surprise there. And I lost my Fleeting Reminiscence. So, what do I want to do to extend this out? This will obviously not endear me with the Suppression Bureau, but we call upon the Mother of Ants, which ariseth from wounds. The serpent's mouth is large enough to crouch in. Its tongue is the thickness of a man's shoulders, but almost certainly it will respect the power that we bear. So that was 10 knock. Old unhappy far off things moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. So that's gonna become restlessness. That restlessness will eventually become despair. So I'm gonna need to think a little bit about that. I think I'm gonna keep running with the Callagine. And again, it'll be the expiring one just to deal with any evidence that comes up. If I was smarter, I would have actually turned in with Dr. Adim, but I'm already locked into that. So. I'm not able to upgrade these yet because I don't have the required materials. That's eventually going to be what these expeditions are for. I got a very late start on the expeditions. Actually, do I have any fancy knock paints? No, I don't. Maybe we can grind up the icon of St. Agnes and use that for paint. No, yeah. So I had a very late start to my expeditions. Long's plans revealed a respite. Our enemy will not move against us this time. They will rest, and perhaps in resting they will grow stronger. So they're actually getting pretty tough already. But we'll work with this. I don't just have a graces, I've actually got 2 of them. So that's 14 graces. Confusion's Shadow... Right, okay, we're already upgrading the Forbidden Epics. I should probably be working on these books, though. Okay, Restlessness, I mean, this is not that hard for me to deal with. I'll just wind up painting again, although obviously I've generated more notoriety for myself from the whole painting business. Alright. So, Subtle Rupture's back. Mystique. Okay, this contentment will be helpful. I must have been wrong about the knock, by the way. And in this case, we'll use Restlessness for inspiration, just so we don't have to worry about any more liabilities with Dread, although obviously with the Contentment, that's less of a problem, so... I kind of have an idea about where the whole Grail thing is going, but we'll see. I've been surprised before. Alright, so, good to know. Sorry, that's not what it should be doing. I now know that the moth degrades into restlessness. Now, I'm slightly curious as to who's going to wind up gobbling this. I'm scared that Douglas is going to wind up going in there, and I don't have a snare for him. And of course, I really do need the blood. But we'll see where it goes. In the meantime, I've got my health back, which is good. And I think I'm just going to keep that dream open because it will be, yep, that's exactly what happened. So he might wind up trying to steal one of my locations. And in this particular case, I'm going to anticipate it, and we will... We'll make that snare right away. Rivalry. Here's another who would ascend before us. Independent occultists will try to monopolize the attention of the hours. They also may conduct other schemes, whether you like it or not. Oop, our expedition plans for the next challenge. It will consume so I should answer this here. So this was the serpent that we were up against. So it lowers its great head. Moisture sweeps from its lidless eyes. Is it weeping? What does it remember of its eldest sister, whose power we call upon? I'm going to keep that to myself, actually, Le Chauffleur. And that's mostly just because, well, one, I'm scared of being wrong. But more importantly, I think there's the possibility, I think there's certain topics which tend to lend themselves towards maybe an implied permission to ruin the fun for others, and I'd rather not do that. So I think what I'll maybe do is, like, I'll write them down on like a notepad or something like that, and I'll share what I wrote when we get to the end of it. So I'm going to paint again. It's not necessarily the most productive use, because obviously I've got a few other things that I could be working with right now. But one, it does allow me to eat up a little bit more. It does allow me to eat up a little bit more. We'll use the fresh ones, and that's just to maximize the possibility of one of these expiring ones being used. I know I'm going to lose 2 as a result of this, but we'll see. But yeah, the bigger threat to me right now is the possibility of dread. So I want to keep myself open to dealing with it. Okay, a scheme to murder is afoot. A rival intends to end a hunter. This may be to my advantage, but it may also draw attention. Well, Connie's not available, so... A murderous scheme. Trace is left by a rival's decision to move against an enemy. Here's another who would ascend before me. Independent... Okay, yeah, we've already got that. I always assumed that these were sort of like a little helper card in the context of, like, making the game. I'm not quite sure how it all works, but I think the presence of, like, these little 2-second cards allows the game to work. Alright. We call upon the beach crow, who sees what is lost. We bear a great power of opening. We'll almost certainly find this hidden door. Now, this might just be an indication of me not paying attention, but I did not know that the beach crow was associated with Nox, so I learned something today. And for those of you wondering what the devil I'm talking about, Cultist Simulator, for those of you maybe who haven't played it before, the great joy of this game is that it does not hold your hand, both in terms of learning how to play it, but also in terms of the world. It really is a game that you sit down and you experience, and the confusion that is felt by your character is the one that is felt by you as a player as well. So there's always these little connections. The thing that I like the most about the writing in this game is that you get... you sort of get intuitions in the game, and it's just sort of these connections that seem to naturally emerge. And I mean, I think this is very intentional and directed. But in my own particular case, it starts off as just this alphabet soup of mysterious things. What I should have been doing, by the way, is filling these empty spots with summons. This is actually this was a tremendous waste of my human resources, let's say, or less than human resources, more than human resources. Depends how you feel about the creatures. But yeah, one of the things that's sort of neat about the game is that it's not just flowery language. Like, there are things that are going on in the background of the game, and if you can't really expect to learn everything in one go, but you really get these little opportunities to sort of see a bit more. So even when you become really familiar with the game, there's always just another little sliver to find. And of course, this also encourages you to, even if you have, like, so I'm very conservative in my play, and I have a tendency that if I find a trick that works, I tend to use it a lot. But one way that Cultist Simulator, in a very soft way, but kind of discourages that is if you just stay down one path, if you're like, you know, edge is the best way to overcome like 90% of your problems, that's completely fine as long as you get the outcomes that you're looking for. It is not my place to tell you how you should be playing the game, but it does carry with it that small penalty that you're not necessarily going to hear about the associations from some of the other options. So for instance, there are ways to deceive opponents, there are ways to seduce opponents, there are lots of different ways around obstacles, even if it seems like there's only one obvious one. And so the nice little benefit to it, you know, number one, if you get stuck and you have multiple options, obviously it means that you can progress a little bit faster in the game. But more importantly, you get to view this, you know, this thing just beneath the skin of the world in a different light. And one of the projects I've been meaning to do for a while, and I know I've talked a lot about some of the things that I want to do on YouTube, including sort of like dedicated videos, and not a lot of this has come to fruition. It's not because I'm not doing them, it's just because I need to sort of figure out where the time is best spent. And right now, you know, the thing is, the current format's working. And I know that there was some, you know, I think there was some sort of approval for, you know, not having a weekly Cultist Simulator stream on the condition that it would result in sort of more, maybe smaller episodes or something like that. So I am kind of keeping that in mind, but I want to make sure that I have something worthwhile to do in between. But one of the things I've been meaning to do is to just properly, you know, scrape all the text, build the connections sort of linguistically in the game, and sort of present a map of what I find. But again, that's like, I usually just like playing games. I don't always analyze them. So anyways. Our mortal enemy has allies and resources in many nations. They move slowly, but as time passes, they will bring more and more of those allies and resources to bear against us. The Wolf Despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. So Fascination's coming up next. Of course, I don't need to worry about the fascination that came from the blood, because I didn't get the blood. Douglas kept me from seeing that. Oh, more might, so they're going to be up to level 8. Our immortal okay, we've already got that. So DeLong's might is increasing. Nice work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So Glimmering's nice, although, I mean, really, this is, all of this stuff is more for my my efforts to upgrade certain lore. I can't really raise my passion or my reason any higher. So I don't really have anything else to paint for the next little while. There is a decent argument for me to try and hang on to that fleeting reminiscence. I've got that for how long? 108 seconds. Yeah, so there's a pretty good argument for me to try and hang on to the fleeting reminiscence, because it will it'll help me with the fascination that will come up when I deal with the Forlorn Blood. I just think it's a little far away for me to deal with that. So normally I would have worked on a commission, but it's very clear that I blew it and I didn't get enough commissions either. So maybe I do need to paint just for lack of any other work activity. All right, well, notoriety won't hurt here, so. It'll at least extend the life of it, so. I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one that we know. So this was kind of at the end of last stream. This is just so I can get some more, locations. I would like I'd like to continue doing this. There's at least one more for the Forbidden Epic, but I would also like to start translating these works. So the Geminiad, I don't believe I have... Oh no, I do. But I've read this already, I think. I don't even remember anymore. Well, before anything, let's learn some Aramaic. There is, of course, no single Aramaic, but I will learn what I can. Logistical difficulty supplies are low. Unless I send more funds, we'll have to abandon the expedition. So looks like we failed at the door. Where is it? We could use more knock or lantern. I think we have enough of both, but we just got unlucky. Okay. My follower has prepared a stratagem which, with considerable luck, might defeat a rival's plans. So this is still not a very effective snare. I've not had any luck on making them better yet, and I'm sure there's a way to do so. It's the big difficulty that I run into is that it only has snare effectiveness. So I'm either missing something to improve my snares. Now the possibility here, of course, is that I may need to make the disciples even stronger, and Grail is not very well equipped for... Oh, hang on. I can make these guys, like, way worse. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to up their Grail toot suite. But yeah, so I've got the... you know, I've got the beginnings of sort of understanding this whole snare thing. I didn't know how to do them at all before. But in this particular case, because there's only the aspect of snare effectiveness and there doesn't seem to be anything that connects with snare effectiveness to my understanding, of course, the whole point of this game is that you learn as you go and you discover new things. But at the moment, I've sort of been creating these roughly the cult equivalent of a big box with a little stick and a sign that says, you know, long goes here or hunter goes here, and kind of hoping that they go and they pick up the card so that they can, yeah. Anyways, it's kind of embarrassing, but let's, first things first, we'll turn in Dr. Adim's Secret Histories work, what the doctor requested. I think I'm going to take a minute to just talk my way through all of the commissions, because that gives me something to do during work, or for the work tile. I receive the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So, always nice to get a little erudition, although I don't really need it at the moment. Adim will be out of commission, so to speak, for the next little while, but Jannings should be good for a job. Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking particular research. All right. Well, there's the fascination that we were expecting. The sun flickers like a shadow. Dreams ripple beneath the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. Fascination may provoke visions, and of course, because we are sick, we're still going to be losing health. But I have plenty of money to deal with that, so... And of course I've got plenty of health to burn as well, so... the Count needs commission on edge, which we should be able to satisfy. Madame Bichier is up next. So Connie Lee's going to be tied up with my Mystique, so not much to do there. And Madame Bichier would like commission on Moth. I'm kind of curious... Okay, no, I don't want to study the language with you. Or was there something else? Hang on. Sulichana stubs out her cigarette. Yes, if you want to study the language with me, yes you can. Was there something else? Ah, so we can talk about anything. secret places. I'm not quite ready to give that up yet. I mean, I guess technically I could get a free location out of it. Ooh, an introduction to Our Lady of Wires. You're really going to do it? Sulochana meditatively rocks the sole of one booted foot over the wreck of her cigarette. Then I'm leaving now. Don't worry, I'll send your message to the necessary sister. I'm sure she'll come, if there's blood enough. Well, this is very interesting. Let's see where this goes. Oops. This is, yeah, that's where it should be. Alright, work is considered notable. More mystique for the pile. The real question is, do I want to work on my painting anymore, or do I want to work on... I think I'm okay without the painting for the next little bit. So instead, I'm going to fulfill these commissions. Yeah, let's not give them too much for free. This may be useful for commission. Unfortunately, I don't have any more... A very great power of opening will almost certainly find this hidden door. Okay, we've not finished that yet, so... yeah, I would normally throw more bodies into the expedition, but I know we don't actually need them, so... Alright, I've achieved a basic understanding. Now it's just time to translate as much as I possibly can, so we'll start with... I think we'll start with the Geminiad. Lock the study door. Translation begins. A fragile manuscript illuminated with the twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty, and with all the phases of the moon. It may be as old as the 17th century, but the language, if you've seen, is much older. Coral decorates the cover, and its page edges are, I think, sharp as razor blades? Oh, sharp enough to slash a throat. Close enough. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. No fascination drives my visions, and it's over for now. And our spy has returned to us, which is good news. We're still afflicted, so we'll deal with that there. And I need to sneeze, so I'm probably going to babble incoherently for the next little while until you finally hear me release. Alright, looks like we are still failing to find the door. I think I'm just going to throw more money at the problem. I'm not losing anybody yet, which is good. We're just going to keep the hint there until we find sort of what the next move is. Okay, so let's see what the deal is here. We've got Our Lady of Wires is en route. Sulochana's sister, who is not actually named, save as Our Lady of Wires. She'll be here soon by night. Well then. I might have created a problem for myself. We'll also do the Moth Commission. Mrs. Olympe Bichet is seeking suitable articles for the Kerisham Review. In particular, she wants something suitably intriguing about the principle called Moth. Well, I'm pretty sure I can turn the Barber's Warning into a Spintrea. And then I might as well talk to Jannings. At some point I would like to upgrade some of my followers. Wow, my mouse is not quite as sensitive as I want it to be. Does give me a chance to mess around with these a little bit though. So Jannings, I'll put you there. So here I'm just turning in the commission that I already wrote. This is a Watchful Tantra, so we'll move that up. So these people I already need to induct in the cult. I believe they are the final. Potential members, and I'll have sort of a full complement. But for some reason, I have not elevated my, my closest brothers and sisters. So that's a rather nasty oversight on my part. I believe Porter is Moth. Yes, he is. Okay. We'll just wait it out then. I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So, more erudition, which isn't terrible, but I probably won't be able to use it in time, and more mystique to confound my enemies. Obviously, it would have been rather helpful if Douglas did take out Connie Lee, but it's, you know, I think that's a bit of a tall order. I don't think anybody seriously expected that to work. Why don't we use the stained gloves just because I can? This one is ready. Your guess is as good as mine, Burb Crew. We'll find out soon, though. It's a very knockish background, but... Alright, I've prepared the Geminiad for study. Let's... Hey, where'd you go? So, these pages outline the nature and the doctrines of an hour that demands the union of what is at rest, an hour that is sought at the water's edge and beneath the moon, the witch and sister. The language is naughty, poetic, willful. It'll take some untangling. Okay, still stuck at the door. Perhaps this was for the best, so... Snare will be expiring before too long. Hopefully so will the notoriety. They will not forgive the savor that I have given them. So I forgot to read Violet's write-up before. That was bad of me. Violet likes to paint. She has a gift, though she's always been very modest about it. She never puts human figures in her paintings. There are enough people in the world. So we will hit her once again with the Order of the Bloody Cup to turn her into a super follower. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. And a quick reminder, if you're wondering why I haven't been going into the Mansis, it's just because I am constantly getting sick due to my lack of... Basically, it seems that the timing of the arrival of the blood vials has not really been to my advantage, and when the season of ambitions is coming by, Douglas has been taking up. He's been the one to get sort of gobbled up into the verb. So it's you know, it's a problem. It would be nice if that didn't happen, but we found a way of managing it. I've obviously got a very large amount of money, and I have some fairly easy ways of generating it, but I want to make sure that I'm able to... I want to make sure that I basically have my dream slot open to be able to heal up before things spiral out of control. Also, what's happening with... More old, unhappy, far-off things that'll give me an excuse to dodge the... Excuse me, to dodge the notoriety. Dr. Deem is available now too. So we'll just wait a little bit on the work for the old, unhappy, far-off things, and I can paint that out of existence. We've got intrigue, so I believe Grail is good for that. Saliba. Now, obviously, I won't be able to upgrade Saliba after that, but nope. Fate lines in stone, a surface that yields pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shutter and a shower of dust. Okay, so there's the restlessness. Use my notoriety. Obviously, that won't make the ticker go down, but I can live with that. Actually, I'm gonna try and take the fresh ones. It's a 50-50 chance that my expiring one gets taken up by the detective. So we'll paint away the restlessness. Nothing else I need to worry about here. I haven't gotten any influence, and of course I haven't got influence because I haven't been going to the Mansis, and I haven't been going to the Mansis because of my my sickness. Alright, in pain we are born, in hunger we are embraced, in delight we are devoured. These are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays. In remembrance of that promise, we give ourselves to the feast. Violet is always very careful. So we're gonna shuffle all this along a bit so Violet can take her proper place. Violet also appears on a rather tempting little tweet by Weather Factory, if you haven't seen that yet. But before we go any further, let's have a chat. Or first I'm going to have a chat with Madame Bichet to give her her commission, then we'll talk with Adim to get a new commission. By the way, I haven't put Sulachana back in her spot. Or does she go away when... Huh. I didn't even pay attention. Okay, bleak thoughts. I do have contentment, but that won't be around for a very long time. Let's pay our way out of sickness. Ooh. It sort of feels like there's been these little micro... So, for instance, like I'm trying to left-click here, and this heal box is just sort of staying. That seems to be recent, but... Okay, the Geminiad reminds us that the Witch and Sister has been known to manifest as the Sister and Witch, and that this face may heal while the other face is always hungry. It implies connections between the Witch and Sister and the Hours of the Wood, especially the Secret Keeper called the Velvet. But it is ambiguous on whether the Witch and Sister is the Wood Hour proper, and it speaks at length about the sadness and the two who are one, the sadness that remains from their time as flesh. So we've got the Moldy Warp admonitions. Now we already had that, but what can happen now is we can double up the Ecdysist's Parable and the Moldy Warp admonitions to move this up a level and still retain one of the lore. We now have the rite of the Crow's Quenching, which I actually think is kind of useful to us, if memory serves. Running out of space, the jumble is something I'll sell. Can't remember what this takes as an input. We'll figure it out, though. This rite calls on the beach crow at sunrise or moonrise. The crow accepts the sacrifice, then returns the gifts of the earth. We've got a new fancy knock tool, Thakic Invocation. So I always kind of take, it's always interesting to me in terms of what kinds of lore you wind up getting. So in this case it's making a connection between Moth and Grail, or at least an implied one. And I actually, off the top of my head, don't remember if there's anything that comes out of that. Although in this case it's also given us Heart as well, so... anyways, I will read the Thakic Invocation. Raucous shrieks attend the passage of the names to the Grail. We reproduce them as best as we can for the pulsing power that they lend. Use with the Byzantine Tinct and a Moth influence or other resources of equal power to summon a raw prophet. Okay, study. Let's do the Watchful Tantra next. So that will be Sanskrit. I should probably just translate this all and let it get sorted out, but lock the study door, the work begins. Alright, I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. I wonder if I can just sell the snare at, like, at Oriflamme's. Alright, have a good one, Jamie Sam. I hope you had a good time. I hope everything's going well for you down south, or at least more southernly than I'm at. Hope to see you again soon. Okay. I'll start by getting a commission from Dr. Adim. I can try and recruit the hanger-on, although obviously it won't be, like, it'll kind of only be a marginal benefit. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot to upgrade this hanger-on as well. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm still not 100% well, but I wasn't going to use that as an excuse to not stream for you, even though I was a little late. I snuck a coffee, and I actually also got a cheesecake, and it was white chocolate and lime, and it was very delicious. All right, so Dr. Adim would like the secret histories again. Count Jannings has become available, so that makes me happy. A single car. Oh, I should probably be reading. So the room stinks of serpent musk and burnt paper. Someone has comprehensively destroyed all records that they could find. They've even scrubbed the walls clean. Cold ashes choke the fireplace. No trace of the poor soul who rented this place remains. I have an idea about how I'm going to get that Callaghan back. So now I've got more notoriety than I really know what to do with. I do get Enid back, though, and Neville. And I get an expiring percussivant and a Maid in the Mirror. And more importantly, I get loot. The Cipher Journal of Alessandro Lacrosse. Prince Alessandro Lacrosse spent years in a secret study, of the tablets taken from the Fucine marshes in central Italy. His work will allow you to read Fucine texts, but it is written in a simple Latin cipher. You'll need to decipher it first. So I actually already know how to read that. I can't remember how I learned to read that, actually. We have got On the Matter of Deeds and Serpents. This is probably the Prophecies of the Naga, rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergences from the text. It's certainly quite recent by the standard of VAC texts. So that one's, I'll actually just put that there because I know I can't read that. We've got The Serenity of the Black Wood, an allegorical history in the House of Leith, who is here implied to be inspired by the centipede. Sereno Blackwood is an occultist alias to this day. So that's in Greek, which we can understand. And we've got The Irreproachable Traditions, the irreproachable traditions of the Society of the Noble Endeavor in Latin. So all of these are manageable. I'm just going to go plowing straight into the next expedition. Now, there is a bit of a challenge because I don't really have a very deep bench. I kind of let a bunch of things expire because I wasn't thinking that carefully, and then on top of that, I ran into the problem that I don't have my Forlorn blood healed, which means that I'm just going to wind up needing to keep that dream open to help with my maladies. But we'll do what we can. I do want to keep the percussivant and the Maid in the Mirror. There's the possibility that I'll lose the Callaghan, but I don't think so because we should be done painting before too much. Okay. Unquestionably, I should probably read what this is first. So Philip Foreman, the helminthologist and antiquarian, did all his best work here at the family home until the day his subjects escaped. The infestation was destroyed, but Foreman, they say, walks the halls to this day, guarding his library and his shame. Unquestionably, this bleak mansion is haunted. The last visitors saw and fled the dead before they could touch him with their fraying hands. The visitor before that claimed she saw nothing, but she died of despair exactly 1 year later to this day. Expeditions need at least 1 funds per obstacle. Followers will defeat obstacles. If you run out of funds or followers, the expedition ends. So, let's see. So in 40 seconds, we'll figure out what this Lady of the Wires thing is. I do need to turn the Callaghan into another Callaghan. And of course, we'll find out what... Oh, actually, sorry. Did I say this? Yeah, no, we're good. Try to make a guess as to what helminthology is, knowing the lore of this game. Oh, I don't think... I know there's one made-up word. I don't know what the made-up word is, by the way, but... Oh, a study of of parasitic worms. That's very... very on brand. Okay, and I've painted myself to fame. So before I do any more painting, I need to deal with my expiring summon. All right, something really weird's been happening to the UI. I guess I can't blame Martin anymore. Okay, so I think Crucible Soul should be able to work for this, because I can put the Callaghan in as a victim. And then... This may not be enough. I could probably throw the icon of St. Agnes in. Nope. Oh, that's right, because the Callaghan is... Yes. Alright. I don't think I can get away with this, actually. Let's say instruments the icon of St. Agnes. Well... remember exactly what this needs now that I think about it. That's it. Okay, now as far as talk, I can recruit someone, or I can what? Well, I can get another snare made. It's kind of a lame precautionary measure, though, so... you know what? Let's bring that hanger-on into the fold. I may wind up regretting it, but... there can be no bravery without madness. Some video game told me that. "23 seconds until we find something new." So Saliba did successfully delay the long, but obviously we are... Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so Roland is going to come and save me from myself. And I've got a nice... Actually, that worked out rather well, because I'll be able to use that fleeting reminiscence to deal with the fascination that will emerge in a moment. Okay, so the expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So the Dry Soul Curse will need Heart or Lantern to suppress the curse, otherwise it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. So I've already got a leg up on the Heart. We also have the Fretful Dead. Not all the dead rest easy. These ones dislike our intrusion. We can prevail against them with Edge, or they may obey one who comes in the name of Winter. So as it happens, we've got more than enough Edge. We probably need a supplement in terms of Heart. So in this case, we will send, you know what, Leo. Leo can be the one to represent Heart this time. And the Watchful Tantra is now comprehensible. The Tantra describes a process of occult illumination, including a formula which may show the way from the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent Gate, which in the West is usually called the Spider Door. So this is a neat one, right? I don't like giving too many direct bits of advice, but if you want another example in terms of how Cultist Simulator, even though it doesn't have a tutorial, actually holds your hand maybe a little bit more than you think. So, you know, the Tantra describes the process of occult illumination, including a formula which may show the way from the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent Gate, which in the West is usually called the Spider's Door. So it doesn't actually necessarily say what the Hunter's Gate is. You may be able to make the connection, you know, the Stag Door. But it does tell you, it's like, this is a way to get to the Spider's Door. And if you go into the Matsis, it usually kind of indicates roughly how the ascensions work. So this is telling you, if you read it, hey, pay attention, I'm going to tell you something. Now, obviously, we've already got that path. But this is a great little example of how the game... you know, again, it's rather notorious for not having a tutorial, but it actually, in my opinion, does give you more than I think people necessarily give the game credit for. And it's why I rather respect the decision of Weather Factory to kind of stick to their guns as far as the decision to keep the tutorials out. Okay. A courier has arrived from our delight with a single vial of their most holy blood. Where'd the blood go? Oh, hello, Marionette, Our Lady of Wires. It reeks of rotten blood and it clacks its jaw each time it speaks. Perhaps there is a woman huddled beneath the cloth and the bones. Perhaps it's some puppeteer's trick. Interesting. Jesper Zephyr, this isn't actually DLC. So if you have the base game, these are the legacies that were added in the most recent patch called the Apostle ones. Now we did a special stream on the Cultist Simulator Steam page, so I was given a special little save file that actually includes all 3 Apostle victories. But basically, there's 2 ways that you can get to this. You can ruin your fun, and you can modify your save file to give you the option right away. But essentially what happens here is that this picks up after you ascend in one of the previous ones. So there's the Apostle Obstinate, which is this is basically the Grail Apostle victory, or Grail Apostle legacy. And I can't remember the ones for the Lantern and the Forge, but basically if you get a successful ascension for one of the 3 basic ascensions in the game, you can, it'll give you the option of sort of continuing on, and essentially what you do, you become the follower of your previous character, and while you're trying to help them ascend even higher, there are these rather nasty creatures, the Long, which start coming after you. And Lady Trifon is actually mentioned in the game before this DLC came, or not this DLC, but before these legacies came in. So it's a little bit hard to try and convince people that this is not something you actually need to pay for. It is in the base game, but it is definitely a little more challenging to access because, of course, you need to beat the game to access it. So you're about to win for the first time with Enlightenment. Awesome. So that will probably unlock your your Lantern Apostle legacy, and I highly recommend that you check it out. It is definitely going to give you a bit of a run for your money, but it's a very satisfying experience. I'm still sort of working my way through it now. As you can tell, I'm a little more ponderous in my pace, and I definitely like to talk a lot during this game. But first of all, congratulations. I remember the first time that I got an Ascension, and I was kind of shaking with excitement a little bit because I'd worked so hard for it, and it was finally paying off. But just feel secure in the knowledge that you get to relive all of that fun of figuring things out as you go through New Game Plus. You can also get the Apostle randomly on the Legacy selection. I don't know if that's true, but I haven't played enough. I mean, I was already given a file with that in there, so it might also be like it may wind up being like the Detective Legacy, where you kind of just need to unlock it once and it goes in the rotation. But I'm one of these, like, I might be a zealous Blastoise, to put it. What am I doing? I need to deal with my blood. I might be a zealous Blastoise in the sense, okay, this is odd. I don't know how apparent it is, but the mouse is not responding exactly the way I would expect it to. But yeah, I may be a zealous Blastoise, to use Lottie's marketing term from a really good presentation she gave some time ago. But I'm actually not one of the people who goes into the guts of the game and sees how it works, so... By the way, isn't Hydra kind of weak? Your disciples can get 10 aspects only if that's your cult principles, so you can't get anybody with 10 aspect, right? I believe that is correct, but I suppose... so I always I do this with every game, so like I am very much a product of my education. There's always that joke about economists. I think it was it Truman? Anyways, one of the presidents said that he wanted a one-hand economist because he always kept saying, on one hand, on the other. The trade-off on Hydra basically is that while you don't have the superpowered disciples, what you do get instead is the versatility. So all of those times you're like, oh, I really wish I had a... Hydra, in theory, helps you out with that. But you're right, if you like going very deep with sort of the levels, then Hydra is a weak choice. So I think it's more of an expression of preference. The more I played the game, the more I actually began to appreciate how being able to have a little more control over what you get is not always the worst thing in the world. But I will admit, I have usually played one of the more established cults. So it's, I suppose it's something of a question of play style. It's a little bit like Stellaris, actually, right? Because there was, for a long time, everybody was like, oh, pacifists aren't that fun to play. And then you try Inward Perfection and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. So you got to play safe. Actually, I would say the Apostle... I'm getting the impression the Apostle Legacy actually punishes you a bit for playing safe. I don't know. It's... I guess the biggest thing is that I asked the question... So the way I think about it is... In every legacy... you're able to live with the fact that the highest every other aspect can go is disciple. So you really only get one aspect which will be maximum level. And, as you say here, unlike edgelords. So, like, obviously, if you like killing everything that gets in your way, then, being able to do the... why can I not remember the cult name for Edge? Anyways, an Edge cult is obviously something that will really be very helpful to you. But suppose you had to play... suppose you had to play something else, or you wanted to play something else, and that particular aspect wasn't helpful in your moment. So obviously Expeditions... Let's say you did Forge. Like, there's only so many times that Forge comes up in Expeditions. And you still need to use Edge, or you still need to use Heart or Winter or some of these other things. Usually the way that you get around that is either to put more than one disciple in, or you summon something. Likewise, if you've lost a lot of your followers, you tend to have to summon things. So with that in mind, I always sort of look at it as the question, like in the case of Hydra, it's like, well, really all that I've done is... all that really changes in your Hydra playthrough is you don't have that one row of followers that has a particularly high stat. And in that case, it's just like, I'm playing it as if I was a Grail cult, except I don't have any level 10 Grail followers yet. And I've never really found that particularly challenging. I've never been particularly upset about the fact that, oh, I really wish I had a level 10 Winter follower right now. So I don't find Hydra as punishing as some others might. So anyways, that was a really long answer to a very simple question. So I think it's largely a question of preference. But I think Hydra is easy to see as particularly weak. And then when you sort of actually think about what you're giving up, it's like, well, level 10 is nice, but like whenever I play one of the other cults, it's not like I've been able to live without level 10 Edge, so... Well, I mean, like any cult, when your disciples die, like, obviously, you're able, like, I've had playthroughs where I've lost all of the disciples of one particular aspect. Now, I would kind of wish that didn't happen, but that was the circumstance that I found myself in. So, if I were to lose, Rhaenyra and Saliba, that leaves me with an avid disciple, which is, I mean, nobody's going to write home about a level 2 Grail follower. I'd probably just be better to get a hireling at that point, really. But, with that in mind, chances are I'm going to have, at some point, enough lore to be able to bring somebody like Azim in. And once you're able to bring in Azim, well, all of a sudden it doesn't matter so much what kind of followers you have. So... Hey, Vulcan to you. Do you mean the game in general, or do you mean my board in particular? Because my board in particular is a masterwork. Welcome, by the way. I am much recovered. More than that, I am sumptuous. The sclera of my eyes... Oops. The veins in my wrists are aswim with gorgeous serums. When the vitulation comes, I will be the centerpiece for our delight to prove their appetite to enact the grail. So I've got my Savorous Blood. Now, obviously I gained fascination for that. We knew that was coming, but I also have my Fleeting Reminiscence, so we will go for Composure. You've never seen this game before. Oh, Vulcan, Vulcan to you. This is wonderful to hear. So I'm going to take a little bit. So we're actually continuing a playthrough that we started on the Steam page for this game. So I've been streaming this game for a while, way back when it was a little alpha. Not the very first version of it, but the first sort of like Unity version. I was really interested in it, and Weather Factory are remarkably friendly, and so I've had a couple of opportunities to try and show the game for them. Hey, Mjolnir's Might, good to see you. So this is a very unique game. I don't know if you're familiar with Sunless Sea or Fallen London or Machine Cares or anything like that. If you're a Stellaris fan, the Horizon Signal was written by the designer of this, but this is a game by a company called Weather Factory. Weather Factory consists of 2 full-time members, Lottie Bevan and Alexis Kennedy. Alexis Kennedy being the author of those games that were mentioned before, and Lottie is the producer on Sunless Seas, Mariner, some later parts of Fallen London, and of course, I always like to say, most importantly, this game, because she's written a couple of great blogs about what went into the creation of this. But this is a narrative card game, so I'm pretty far in. That's why I've got a lot of cards here. But the reason why I actually wanted to take a minute from the gameplay and explain what this is, this game has no tutorial. What it basically is, in the very first sort of level that you play, or the first legacy that you play a hospital porter who, you're taking care of your patients, and one of them dies, and you lose your job shortly after that. But this letter arrives, and this patient who you were taking care of has sort of left you something in their will. And sort of there's a journal and some money, and when you read that journal, it describes the dreams that you've been having, and it sort of leads you to a particular bookshop, and you kind of you start tugging away at this thread, and more things come in. So the game actually just starts with a job and a work slot, and slowly over time you gain access to some more of the verbs. Lottie was a producer on Sunless Skies for the first little bit, but she left to found Weather Factory before the game was complete. And Alexis, really the only credit that he has on Sunless Skies is sort of creating the Fallen London world. So in this case, Sunless Skies is independent from Weather Factory. Though, I mean, again, the work is the work. Like, clearly, it's a very interesting world and some very good writing that went into Sunless Sea. And so it's sort of hard not to see the influence of its creator. But yeah, in this case, they're separate entities. Sort of the same way that the Horizon Signal is a really cool bit of DLC for free DLC for Stellaris, but obviously, Alexis, was working for hire for Paradox. It's not like a Weather Factory thing. Anyway, sorry, I was explaining Cultist Simulator. So yeah, basically, as you sort of follow this thread, you unlock these different actions that you can take. And what's interesting is that in this game, so it's got permadeath and some of these things in, but basically the game doesn't have a formal tutorial as such. It does give you a few little tips. So for instance, here, it's like you found all the expeditions in the land beyond the forest, although you can find and visit the meadows several times. So occasionally the creators kind of come through and say, hey, you should probably know about this thing over here. But as you're playing this person who's sort of discovered sort of things just underneath the skin of the world, and you've started to sort of pick away and see what's going on, you, the player, are learning how the game works as well. And the great payoff on it is that those moments of discovery that you have when you discover something new, it's both your character inside the game, but you yourself. So this game gives you a lot of really great little aha moments, and you get excited when you discover a new approach. So to give you an example, I have never seen this nasty looking thing, the Lady of Wires. We just discovered this stream. So it's a very unique game. It's a very polarizing game. Some people are just on the verge of wanting to like it, and they're like, no, this doesn't work for me. But essentially, this game is able to break down your entire life into individual cards. You've got your health. This is my body. There are other bodies, but this one is mind, and my mind needs it like a fungus needs soil. Or my capacity for reason, my passion, my material wealth, but I'm also my knowledge, and all of these sort of represent sort of knowledge of this world, sort of beyond the apparent one. I may also be my contacts, people who help me along my way, or my reputation. I could also be defined through my enemies. For instance, Connie Lee, the heiress, suffragist, and adventurer. She's recently put her chaotic enthusiasms and considerable wealth to the service. At the service of the Suppression Bureau. So essentially, the game is sort of broken down, sort of somebody's life, your character's life, into all of these individual little components, and you mix them together in interesting ways and sort of discover what's going on. And there's lots of different endings. I mean, there are the ones where you starve to death or you get arrested. There are ones where you ascend. There's ones where you fall in love. It's a really well written, and there's really no other game like it. So sorry to give you the little infomercial there, but it's a game I'm really excited by. So I hope you are sufficiently intrigued to check it out, or at the very least to stick with us and see where this madness is going. Anybody who has questions about the game, by the way, do feel free to speak up, because I love talking about this game. And no problem at all, Mjolnir's Might. I mean, it's my job to balance everything. I wanted to make sure that if there's a ball that's in the air that I think I can catch, I usually try and do it. So it's my fault, not yours. Plus, I like talking about Weather Factory. They're a really cool company. They're really friendly people, and I like that they have. I like that they've been able to find success with this game. It's really rewarding to be able to participate in something like that. Seems interesting and crazy, where with the title Cultist in it should be crazy. Yeah, I agree completely. A lot of people really didn't like the title Cultist Simulator, by the way. I definitely think there's a lot of things that have simulator in the title. So I was originally a little put off by it, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, it's all right. It's a catchy title, and the other thing is, like, I don't know what to name it otherwise. Where were we? The dead circle the edge of our vision like frayed dreams. The very air around us is chill with winter's shadow. They must recognize that. Oh, so the maid in the mirror is actually... So if I add Valsine, I don't think that's good. Well, yeah, because Valsine may look like a winter, but she's not. She's a forge. Okay. So yeah, in this case, the Dry Soul Curse comes up second. So that's fine. In about 0.7 seconds, we'll add the Callagine to the group. Hey, we've got a few lovely people in here. So we've got Clino Dev, mod extraordinaire for the Cool Eagle. I actually don't get to see the Cool Eagle very often, so let me just take a second here. I will let CleanoDev be the ambassador for Mr. Cool Eagle himself, playing XCOM 2, one of my all-time favorite games. And CleanoDev says, you have a Cultist Simulator Standard Edition key that you can't use as a Perpetual Edition owner. Can you give it to me to give it away on stream? You can. In fact, if you'd like, if you see somebody particularly worthwhile, you can actually give that away yourself. But I do know you also mod for Cool Eagle, so did you not want to give that for it? I'm happy to take it, but I don't traditionally do giveaways, so I don't know. If you would like to give that to the stream, I can actually do that right now. But I also don't want to take away the possibility of something that might benefit somebody who I know you usually help out with. And let me catch up. So, and we've got Mr. LeBlanc. So it's apt, but does it come? It does come with bag. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they've actually, I don't know, Sean, if you get a chance to see any of the development streams that they do, but they've actually confronted that a couple of times. And I think one of the main decider, I believe Lottie was not a fan of the title either. At least that was the impression that I got from some of the stories. But there was also a certain amount of sort of like marketing that had already gone into it under that title. So at that point, it's sort of like, well, we're sort of stuck with it. So who is? Oh, you know what? I bet I know where you got it from too, CleanoDev. Did you get it in the Humble Bundle? That's great if you did. And Mjolnir's Might says Cultist Tabletop doesn't have the same ring to it. Wake up or wake a man, wake up or wake. Worth to mention, Cultist Simulator is available in the Humble Bundle Monthly. Yes, it is. Although I should mention that Weather Factory doesn't get any money from that. That was actually the public, because they got a non-recoupable advance on the game. One of the conditions for it was that the Humble people could put it in a bundle, and there wouldn't be royalties for it. Johnny Big Time says, "Hi, you heard of this channel from a friend. He's an asshole though, so hopefully this stream is nice." Who is the friend? Sorry to put the game on hold. Oh, Johnny Big Time is currently playing Anthem Legion of Dawn Edition, so we know exactly how much he's paying attention to Cultist Simulator. Guys, let me take a quick minute and mention Johnny Big Time. I know I've put the game on hold a little bit, but he is my favorite streamer. He's actually somebody who has had me on as a guest on his stream so that I could complain about the people we were playing Anthem with. I actually want to do a small video at some point about why I really like Anthem, and I don't feel bad about that at all. There's a reviewer who I quite like, who did not like Anthem, and I thought that was completely fair to have. Everybody else who is critical of the game that I know has not played the game. Everybody I know who has played the game, with the exception of that reviewer, has not just liked it, really likes it. And I have a blast playing that game with Johnny. More importantly, Johnny is really, he's hilarious. In fact, what I'm going to do quickly, I'm going to queue up another... Is there some other chat or something? Jasper Zephyr, sorry. I don't know what you mean by that, Jasper. Did I miss something that you'd said? Let me just take a quick second here and find... So, usually with Johnny, I like to show you guys a reason to watch him. Your last stream sucked though, so don't worry about it. See, Johnny says this stuff, but Johnny's worst stream is better than my best ones. But Johnny's got a great attitude for streaming. He's incredibly friendly. He is hilarious. And I'll only show you one quick one. But this is also a clip that I did myself. So we're just going to take a quick moment and we will turn down the lovely music by Mickey Mar. If you need one reason to see Mr. Big Time do his thing, they're always giving K-Eagle free keys anyway, and you play it much more. So yes, from the Humble Bundle, hey, if you folks need Cultist Simulator, type tentacles in the chat and you'll pick someone. Okay, and by the way, Clino, if you need, I have a random number generator, so I'm happy to administer it. But if you want, guys, please do take Clino up on his offer, especially for those of you who are like, I'm interested in this, but I'm I wasn't quite ready to buy it, or I was going to wait till it was on sale or something like that. This is a great opportunity. Do take CleanoDev up on this, because at the very least, if you like this and you rave about it, then, somebody else will wind up buying it, or you can pay it forward or whatever. So please, even if you're just normally a lurker in the chat, do not feel bad. Please use it. Say something in chat. Do whatever you can to get a copy of this game, because it's wonderful. In the meantime, this is Johnny Big Time. Please follow him for more moments like this.
Well, the police are after us, right? Oh, shit. Oh, look at that. Pop the perfect wheelie. Ah! Okay, we're all right. We're going to weave in and out of these cones to escape the police. They can't follow this shit up. Look at that. Olympic style. Oh!
So if that has got your attention, do check out Johnny Big Time. Again, he's a good friend. I've not had a chance to meet him in person, and I think that's a tremendous. I think that is a tremendous shame. But if you want comedic moments like that, if you want a guy with a great attitude, currently playing Witcher 3, but he does everything from Apex Legends to hopefully maybe Cultist Simulator in the future. But I won't hold my breath, let's say. Again, definitely somebody who I think in a fairer world we would probably have. We'd flip our follow counts because he is, in my opinion, a hidden gem on Twitch. So I hope you guys have a good one. And I haven't seen anybody write tentacle in the chat, so please do take CleanoDev up on the offer. And if not, I might have somebody who I can recommend to send it to. So your N7 Javelin looks more handsome every time you see it. I gotta take a look at it next time. I don't know if I'll be able to play Anthem with you tonight, but next time I get a chance to jump in the game with you, I will. And by the way, guys, I always feel a little self-conscious about this because I know. I always have a small challenge in wanting to support people who make stuff that I really enjoy. But I also sort of know it sometimes creates a disincentive for people to speak up in chat because, sometimes people don't want a big fuss to be made about it. But I will just very briefly, I won't do like the full song and dance this time, but please do take a minute and check out this link. This is Sean LeBlanc at itch.io. This is the same one who is in chat. Sean makes a bunch of really cool little games and tools, and he does things that seem impossible in little games. So please do check out that channel, especially if you're a Cultist Simulator fan, because there are, I think that's probably selecting into, weird and wonderful things. So again, I said I wasn't going to make a big song and dance out of it, but it would mean a lot to me if you checked out that link and showed some support. So, Rebellious Spirit. The summoning is struggling against my control. I could use reason to dismiss it safely, which is always reliable, or I could try and reassert control with passion, which is not reliable, or I could let what will happen, happen. So, I'm living for risk, we'll throw it in. Contending for mastery. The things from the outside the world have many weapons, knives and riddles, fire and despair. I have weapons of my own. This usually, but will not always work. One thing I do want to test, though. Okay, so it really is just reason or passion, so we'll throw that in there. Yeah, I'm always at odds, Sean, because I don't want to give you a reason to not speak up in chat. I'm really happy to see you here, but I also know I sometimes go a little over the top. So I hope that's a decent mix. Okay, let's have a chat with the marionette of the wires. All right. Blood. It is the empty space which makes the bowl useful, so follow. What? Okay. Marionette always leaves the skin. Sometimes she leaves the bones. If we tell our loyal followers to close their eyes, it's over very quickly. Okay, so I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they're not coming back. It doesn't have the burn up thing though. I don't think I'm quite ready to. I don't think I'm quite ready to do that yet. I think we'll just let that expire. I'll do it, I just won't do it now. I think once I make some progress with the 7 graces, then I'll consider it. The dead draw back, their almost faces flat and watchful. They will not trouble us. A breach, it's free! Oh god. The watchful tantra before I see the terrible consequences of my bad decisions. The sun passes through the house at the appointed time. Since the sun's division, time has become uncertain. So remembering, of course, that it told us the way through the hunter's gate. We've got the Fenian invocation. The door in the eye navigates. He is not merciful, but first and always he illuminates. Use this in a rite with an Octool and a thrilling air or other resources of equal power to summon a hint from beyond mirrors. Now, I don't have my dream available, but I could... Well, it's probably better I don't show you guys that anyway, so... on Matthias and Amethyst Imago, loss. The diagrams and illustrations, even across the centuries, are elegant, hypnotic, occasionally erotic, in Aramaic. And they're only erotic in Aramaic. Oh, an escape summoning lies in wait for you. Human sanity is fragile, but perhaps this thing might cause more mischief than harm. I did not know that that could eat up reason, although it makes sense, of course. So, and apparently I get it for an extended period of time. That makes me happy. I'll eventually be throwing it into the expedition, but not yet. Okay, my last affliction from my tainted blood. So I shrink and grow pale. Fatigue chokes my throat. I must ensure that my death serves a purpose. So we'll be able to use Dream to get this back before too long. As far as work is concerned, I think what I will do here, I'm going to finish off these commissions pretty quickly. So I need a level 4 furtive truth. The air is curdled now. I am home again in this lumpen flesh. Better, perhaps. So here I will use my considerable wealth to heal myself. Okay, so we'll throw... This is really just to preserve the Callagine. What I really want to use them for is the notoriety when the time comes, but... Okay, the events of that night will live long in your memory, but the thing from beyond the wake is no match for you. For days, however, the newcomers question residents of the district. Oh, sorry, the newspapers question residents of the district. So we've got another notoriety to replace the one that burned up for getting too old. Nice. We'll leave that for now. And we will get a commission from Madame Bichet. Okay. Seeds of resentment. Our enemy is working to poison a follower's mind against us. Madame Bichet would like a very substantial commission on Moth. I should be able to manage that. And as far as talking goes, I should probably be a little careful of when using this, because it may be that I need to, I need to take advantage of something that's going through. You know what? I'm too late for this, but I'm going to actually have a chat with a follower to create a trap, because we will have the Season of Ambitions before too long. Okay, taking black... I don't know why this is not responding the way that it was, so... What are they saying? Use passion to keep them loyal. This isn't always successful, but you can keep trying as long as you have passion. Well, I have got a lot of passion, so good news there. Now, looks like Roland is giving us another vial of blood, and I have a feeling it will not last as long as the Savorous blood, so I should find something else to do with it. Call upon the ring you who is renewed. We're strong enough in heart to almost entirely secure against this curse. Again, I'm not going to add anybody else because 13 heart is enough. We will read the book. The laws of the house forbade Matthias to love. The customs of the wood forbade the Imago to remain. So he conjured her a final time when he had uncovered the shears of Alcapura, and she suffered him to cut the wings from her back so that she might remain. and he suffered her to cut the parts which hold man's seed, to keep them from the detestable act. This was love in all its blood and joy. We have cast out Matthias from the house. I'm also wondering if there is a relation with the winged doll here. So Cleaner Dev says, well, you have to be off. You've dropped the key info into a Twitch Whisper system chunk. Give it to anyone you like. May you corrupt all of London with your hideous cult. Thank you very much for that, Cleaner Dev. I'm going to try and give this out for a couple of... maybe I'll do it over the course of the stream. If not, I'll maybe try and find a way of... So I don't usually take keys for giveaways from the developers, just because I don't find... I've never quite found a way of doing giveaways that I'm really happy with, but I do like doing random ones, or I like giving them away in like unconventional ways. So I will definitely find a clever way to give it out. But of course, if you are in chat and you do want a copy of this game, do speak up in chat. We'll find a way of doing it, and if I'm still hanging on to it by the end of the stream, I have some ideas. Let's just say. But I really appreciate that, Cleano Dev, and thank you. We will be in touch, I'm sure. All right, courier has arrived with from our delight with a single vial of their most holy blood. So this will be dead in 239 seconds. It is Grail aspect, so we can use it in some things. I just don't think it'll be useful for most of what I want. Anyways, we do have time before this thing expires, so we will hang on to it for now. And we don't know whether or not my passion has swayed them yet. Sorry I'm all over the map on some of the dialogue here. I am still a little sick. Okay, so they're level 8, and they're 2 most powerful. Our mortal enemy is taking us more seriously and has brought more resources to bear. An enemy long's connections will increase, allowing them to conduct more devious intrigues. Our reputation is no worse, but our enemy will refocus their attention more intently on us now. Okay. Oops. We'll just keep on doing commissions at this point, I think. You know, at some point it would be nice to get some more influence to do some other summons, but no point in forcing it. Let's take our reason. Okay. So I've healed up now. This gives me all of my opportunities to go through. Now, at some point, I want to start doing some more exploration in order to maybe hire some people and betray them in order to go to the spider door. But for now, I'm just going to keep going through the stag door. In my dreams, I know the path to the stag door through the maze of the bounds. Gearby will let me pass, but the path is always a puzzle. I will need reason. So I have enough reason to sort of give up for this. The stag door is the Adept's Gate. To pass it is to be initiated into the first true mystery of the House of the Sun. The head Gearby weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass. The scarred valves of the door grind open. Alright, our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. Okay, I'm getting pretty lucky with Connie eating up all the mystique, but I am ultimately going to face the music before too long. However, it will actually trigger at a reasonably convenient point for me. So what I might do... Actually, I don't think this will properly work. Okay, so Douglas has decided to be a jerk. I was originally thinking of painting so that this notoriety went in, but I don't really think that's worth it in the grand scheme of things. Alright, the right of the map's edge was given to us by the Vagabond. It is the right that Matthias used to summon the Amethyst Imago. But like many summoning rites, it could be used to conjure almost any entity, given the appropriate tool and the appropriate influence. Use it gently in memory of the name and the long who suffered these agonies, that they might be joined. So we do already have the right of the map's edge. Actually, I think we already have an Ecdysist's Parable as well, but Okay, Serenity of the Black Wood. We will translate it. So basically, once this expedition's finished, there's the notoriety that will generate. And then there'll be the notoriety that Connie picks up, but I'll also have a Callagine to eat the level 6. I'll have the Callagine to sort of eat up the consequences. So. Okay, my followers prepared a stratagem which, with considerable luck, might defeat a rival's plan. So again, I still need to find a way of getting a better snare. It may involve just trying to upgrade these guys, but I don't really have a lot of forge tools to work with. So let's see. Talk. Well, we might as well turn in with Adim. Obviously, there's a couple more people who I can upgrade, but what the doctor requested. I'll just turn in the commissions while I can, and then we can worry about the rest. Okay, so we've got Forgotten Chronicle, the Painted River, and the Ascent of Knives. I think Ascent of Knives is probably more likely to give me an influence. Painted River might give me some sort of useful lore, but at this point I'm basically gonna have to upgrade any lore that I find. So let's try the Ascent of Knives. Got lucky there, and indeed I have a furious air. Anger is implicit in every shape. A 10th order influence, a gathering knot of power and peril. This can be used in some rates to summon minions. For those of you who have not seen Culta Simulator before, this is kind of this world beyond our own that's going on here. This is also available as a poster. I have one myself. These things are amazing. And yes, we've been to the wood with the well and the Temple of the Wheel. We've also visited the White Door with the Orchard of Lights and the Lodge of the Sage Knight. We just went through the Stag Door and visited the Ascent of Knives, although we could have gone to the Painted River. One day we may aspire to return through the Spider Door and go through the Mallory or the Chamber of Ways. And then there's the Peacock Door, which we do not yet have access to, where we could visit the Worm Museum or the Red Church. What is the Tricuspid Gate? What is the Glory? By the way, this did used to be the Tricupid Gate, but well, I'm not going to say everything. So, Furious Airs. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass. The walls are knives. Each step is blood. I did not climb far. The pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me. A pain that I could employ to occult purposes if I hurry. Now, the real question is, do I want to go through that door again right away? I don't really see any reason not to, so let's run with it. And more reason. And once the writing is done, then I'll use the Furious Air in a ritual. So, Mjolnir's Brand. I actually also like the Iris one. I know it's not selling very well, but the reason why I got the two posters together was I kind of wanted an Iris poster, but then I also thought a Mantis poster would be really cool. So I got both. Mjolnir's Might says, how do you decide on what to choose? Is it just from experience or what it may give you, or is there actually a formula to it based off of what you've uncovered? So Mjolnir's Might, I feel 70% confident when I go through the Stag Door that I can get a rough idea of what will be in it. It's definitely not it's not a draw. Okay, so it's not the same deck that every location draws from. So like where you go in the Mantis will determine where will determine certain cards, and that applies both to gates and sections. But when I've actually written things down, especially in the higher levels like the Peacock Door, I haven't actually been able to find a discernible pattern. So there may be some areas it would actually be very appropriate. So if you think about the Stag Door and the fact that it's sort of a place of reason, that's where you access it, I think it's not necessarily a coincidence that I'm able to be more deterministic as far as how the like what the outcomes are going to be. And I think the fact that some of the other areas are a little more chaotic is more of a reflection in terms of the ideas that they're aligned with. My theory, and I haven't I haven't come up with some really hard evidence for it because it's a hard one to sort of measure just within the game itself. But I have a feeling that for some of these locations, it depends on what season you've got in terms of what the outcomes for some of these are. So in broad strokes, you can have some reasonable expectations about what you'll get, but it's never a sure thing. You always have a little bit of a hunch that you're working with. Is there any influence on whether you start as a dancer, a doctor, etc.? So, how your last game ended probably has the biggest influence over what will happen to you, or what your follow-up legacies will be. But I believe there is a random draw for, like, with the exception of the ones that are like guaranteed to give you sorry, I'm gonna sneeze again. Or maybe not. But yeah, it'll... Oh, there's... Sorry, this is what happens when I stream sick. So certain endings will definitely give you certain legacies. Like, I believe if you achieve one of the proper ascensions, I think you should always get an apostle legacy. I don't know this for sure, of course, because I usually stick on one. Like, whenever I stream this game, I just have this one save that I play once a week, and I'll sometimes play stuff on my laptop, but I tend to like lock into the game pretty hard because I don't want to like play something and have something cool happen and not show that on stream. And then there's certainly legacies that you unlock through play. Not many, at least not yet. But it's safe to say the majority of legacies that you'll play will probably be from a random draw. Oh, you mean on the map of where certain choices play out different for the starting point regardless? Yeah, I don't know about legacies in the Mansis. I don't think the Mansis changes based on the legacy, but I couldn't say for sure. You've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. I know I've read that like a million times, but 1,000,001 never hurt anybody. Okay, we'll just turn in with Jannings as well. Again, there's cultists that I can upgrade, but there's no point in going any further on this. Okay, so Douglas is being a jerk again. My rival's at their business in the shadows. They're still hiding. What exactly are they up to? Almost always, this will end inconclusively, but occasionally a rival will manage to increase their power in secret. Consider tempting them out of hiding by leaving an expedition open. Well, we've had an expedition open for a while, and I'm very glad that they're not using them. But in this particular case here, Connie took the notoriety I was hoping she wouldn't take, which is the expiring one. But at the very least, I'll be able to use my Callagine to get rid of the evidence. So, we've got the casts. In the room that overlooks the grimy glass of the broken conservatory, twisted shapes, yellow pale as maggots, recline on slabs of wood. These are plaster casts that the foreman made of the poor souls inhabited by the creatures he studied. In some of the figures, the entry holes are visible in the relevant surface. In others, we might assume the creatures entered by ear, mouth, or elsewhere. Okay, bronze spin tray are rather nice because they tend to be the thing that comes up when I need to repair items. And I think at this point I'll finally make some of these pawns into real boys. So nope, not quite enough. So Dancer has a better chance with certain doors than Doctor. Well, I mean in the sense that some of the... So like... Each of these doors have different ways. So for instance, the white door, to go through it, you need health. Now the Dancer, by nature of their job, is much more likely to have lots of health than, say, the Aspirant, which is more likely to starve and have, like, decrepitude and things like that. So that's a little bit more tied to the particular physical traits that you have rather than any particular legacy. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, no, I would argue that it's more depend. So in the sense that certain jobs will give you more opportunities to generate the cards that will allow you to upgrade them. So like the dancer, it's pretty unlikely that you will have a shortage of health, which will make it more easy to go through the white door. But like when you have stuff like the spider's door, that requires a sacrifice. So at that point, it doesn't really matter what... Did I mess up the... No. We should still be able to use the Furious Air. But yeah, in that sense, the legacies don't... I don't think... But in the map. So in the map, so far as I can tell, the legacies should not affect it. But because I'm not actually able to say what does affect the outcomes, I always need to allow for the possibility that there's something going on in the background that I haven't appreciated yet. But my easy answer on that one is, so far as I can tell, no. Matthias and Amethyst Imago transformation. The diagrams and illustrations, even across the centuries, are elegant, hypnotic, occasionally erotic, and still in Aramaic. The deeds of the scarred captain, painstakingly assembled by a soldier of fortune and a sometimes remittance man, Pavel Shulga, during his years in Greece, and it is written in Greek. The devoured Tantra. The diplomat priest Stanislav John Schaller transcribed this from the library of a Red Long. His manuscript remains in a private collection in Kershim. Sanskrit, which we can read. And the world does not weep. Brown Joshua found this in a well in Hamath. There's an unlikely story that it was abandoned by Alexander during his retreat from Issus. Okay, so good for books, which will of course be good for lore, but we do need to go deeper. So, to Orthos Wood. The pines grow thick as hairs on a dog's back. The airs of the inner wood are chokingly thick with resin and dust. The source that brought you here claimed that in the dawn times, the greatest tree and the wood's black heart served as perch for the great masked crow. So Lamont, for all intents, is pretty much down to a dice roll, if you will, and the advantages are on the card table. So, yeah, the only thing I'll say about that dice roll is imagine you had your pick. There was a die that you could, like... Some dice games take advantage of the fact that there are different distributions of outcomes. So there's like a zombie dice game that I played with a friend, and there was like a red die which had lots of sort of dangerous outcomes, and there was like a green die which had a lot of positive outcomes. So while it is a die roll, you also get to pick the die that you roll. And that choice is not only through what door you go through, but also which of the paths you take. So if I want to get a favor from an authority, there are some paths that I'll go through which make that more likely to happen, although it's never a certainty that it will happen. In the black heart of Orthos Wood, we might find a tree where the masked crow met its peers, but the forest itself is a peril, and the cannibal clans who live there are another. So again, we'll wait before adding the Callagine to deal with our evidence problem. Oh god, we'll have another season of suspicion right away. I'm a little tempted to... Yeah, you know what? I think I'm actually going to translate everything before I start reading them, and that's so I can take advantage of any erudition that pops up, so... Okay, so we need... Long ago, the primal trees marched from sea to sea. Some traces of their reign still survive, like this dense and choking territory of root and thorn. The practicalities of Forge or the mysteries of Moth may see us through. We also have Watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. So, in theory, Moth is the most helpful for that, but of course we've got a lot of edge to to work with. So, you know what? Let's see what we can do about. Let's see what we can do with some moth. So we'll start by adding Elizabeth. Okay, I finished the manuscript. Need to use that furious air pretty quickly. I also need to deal with the blood. But first things first, let's get... so first of all, I want to see what's going on with the rite of the crows crunching. So the offering needs to be... I mean, in theory, I could do the delightful blood, but I'm pretty sure I couldn't... I'm pretty sure I couldn't make this happen with... I don't think there's any edge... I don't think there's any edge grail combinations. So let's say right at the map's edge. The icon of Saint Agnes. So Heart will give me a percussivant, Lantern will give me a hint, Winter will give me a Maid in the Mirror. Maid in the Mirror is definitely the toughest one, but I've got a hint already locked up because of the actually, you know what? Let's just set aside the... So Lantern is to get... I think it's to make passion into reason, right? As above, so below, reason and passion contend in the human soul. As the glory lights the darkness of the wood, this mystic discipline will transform passion to reason. You are calling on only a minor degree of Lantern, so the rite will often fail. Increase Lantern to at least 10 to improve your chances. Cool. And presumably if I do this with Presumably if I do this with Moth, I turn it into passion. Passion's gyre. As below, so above, passion and reason contend in the human soul. As the wood engulfs the glory's light, this ecstatic practice will transform reason to passion, but it may get out of hand. You are calling on only a minor degree of Moth, so the rite will often fail. So again, I think I just want to summon something horrifying. So let's do... I think I'm going to do a hint, and that's just so I can have a little diversity in terms of the group. Obviously, the hint will help me out with, let's say, hidden doors. So, hint was once a living mortal and then a dead one. So it's now, and now it's something else. The summoning requires Lantern for the light which drew them to the Mansus, and Edge for the striving that they've endured in mirrors. Go. So that's been 2 fascination. This one might actually be a bit dangerous for me. So I dreamt of the Mansus behind the white door of a great space above the orchard. The space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon a painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. Okay, so it's still Season of Suspicion, so I'm okay there. There's an argument for me to go through the white door, but I'll leave it for now. I have an idea of how to get rid of this fascination. I won't be able to use that too many more times, though. My rival has been up to some kind of mischief. The Suppression Bureau may take note. He's still only 2 towards his ascension, so we're okay with that for now. In pain we are born, in hunger we are embraced, in delight we are devoured. These are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays. In remembrance of that promise, we give ourselves to the feast. So we now have a dexterous disciple to help us with knock duties if it comes to it. So I have one more upgrade that I'm able to do. But before I do that, I'm gonna prep the Caligan to deal with my hunter problem. Alright, so I don't need to worry about the long messing with me, but that's going to have consequences. I am certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So Connie's out. I mean, this might normally be a time for me to send someone off to try and kill her, but I've got all my verbs locked up. Oh, call upon the math who's dappled. Shadows dapple the path. Perhaps the path is one that Moth has given us. Probably it is. Probably we'll make it through. I don't want probably, I want certainly. So we call upon the Moth who seeks among the trees of the wood. The wood beneath the mantis is darker even than this place. The Moth will guide our footfalls. Success is very likely. So yeah, in this case, I'm just going to get the Caligan to deal with the evidence. And then oh, actually Dread's coming up. So it turns out that we just got by as far as the season of suspicion. So lucky there. This is more Greek. So the reason why I'm queuing this all up for translation is sometimes you get additional benefits like erudition. I need to be sure to get rid of this delightful blood before too long. Going for it. Oh, you know what? This is just going to turn into this. Ah, that sucks. It is going to turn into despair, and I really didn't need that quite this moment. Trembling heat. I don't think there's anything I can do with this. So let's do the Ascent of Knives. Oof, that's going to get ugly. So bitter atmosphere, winter passes, the clothes passes the skin, nestles in the veins. A 10th order influence, gathering knot of power and peril, can be used in some rites to summon minions. If unused, it will become dread. I visited the Ascent of Knives last night, and the harshest of roads through the house. It has been called sacred to the Menascate and the sun and rags since the intercalate, where the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. So this is going to be a little tricky in terms of managing my resources. I need to find something to do with the delightful blood in 30 seconds that gets rid of it. So that would normally invite some kind of a ritual where, you know, I get rid of this. But the thing is that I need to use some kind of grail. So for instance, a level 8 grail with knock and moth will get me a raw profit. But that's like 8 grail. I don't think, yeah, a 3 is not really going to get me anything there. So it's like, okay, fair enough. Maybe I can use that in some kind of a, you know, I can use it in like a ritual, or not a ritual, in an upgrade, turning this guy into a disciple. Okay, not a bad idea. But that's kind of what I wanted to use the fascination for, and I'm only able to upgrade one more person. So what happens, you know, is there... do I have some other ways of getting rid of this fascination? The other thing that I can do, of course, is wait the 30 seconds and let this become dread. But then, of course, I'm going to have a season of despair coming up, which won't, you know, I'm not going to be able to get rid of the fascination then. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm not entirely sure I have a good answer for how to handle this. But I am going to go back through the stag door and hope I have better luck than I have before. An expedition member has fallen. No, my poor percussivant. We've lost the path. The forest towers against the dusk sky. The beasts of the forest are silent, but now and then we see their eyes. So I'm actually going to put funds towards this now because I want to see what happens if I put a I just want to see what happens if I put a another moth in. I don't think it will fix anything, but... So, it is banished or destroyed. We gain trembling airs for it, and we got the course of the heart. So, in the final moments of the Percussagant's life, it danced a dance that had us tapping our toes. Okay, well, the die is cast as far as this dread is concerned, so... my minion is returned, the evidence has been destroyed, I am a little safer. So, need moth influence? I got moth influence. Yeah, we'll sit with that. Now, if I thought I was going to combine the Delightful Blood and the Fascination, I shouldn't have gone through the Stag Door. That was actually quite foolish of me to do. So, I will lick my wounds by selling something to Madame Bichet. Alright, my summoning will obey my wishes for now. So I've got a hint. Well, this is an interesting possibility. I wonder if... So I'll stack up some notoriety just because that'll give me some money. Let's say I take the Delightful Blood. No, I can't use a Delightful Blood for inspiration, but I can use the Winter at least. Alright, I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. Okay, so the Deeds of the Scarred Captain is now comprehensible. The irreproachable traditions it is. Again, I have no idea whether or not this is actually going to give me any influences or erudition or anything like that. But I like sort of stacking these up just so I can take advantage of it if it does emerge. So, yes, Bichet is done. So I can talk with Adim and Jannings. I think that's probably the right call. And again, I don't know if this is a mouse problem or what, but... And I should put money to the expedition, so... yeah, and it turns out we just got unlucky. We have enough moth. What'll likely happen now, of course, that I've got the Callagine involved, it will very likely deceive the Watchers rather than overpower them, but I'm totally fine with that, so... Colors of the Night. Actually... This probably wasn't the right call. Well, let's... I'm curious what happens. I don't think this should result in a special painting. I think I need passion for that, but let's see. Okay, Jennings wants heart. Season of Sickness, I can manage that. I actually already have a Vitality, so I don't even need to give up money for that. I will go for the Subtle Rupture. I may lose it, though. In sleep, I ran my fingers along the ridged edges of the Stag's Door's scars. Our company, it was that shattered it, Gearby says suddenly. Before the gods who were flesh, the Mansus was forbidden to mortals. We were the first no. He begins to weep his molten tears. I wish that we had not. I wish I had died in the world. I've forgotten what else he said, but I remember the shape of the fissures in the Stag Door, and for all of today, doors will fear my touch. Okay, so secret histories for Adim. Now, I'm not actually going to work on any of these for a while. Let's go back through the Stag Door. It does generally give me the stuff that I want, so I'm not too upset about doing that. I think the time has come to upgrade the pawn. Oh, what am I doing? This was not smart. Yeah, I don't want them struggling because they'll probably get lost. All right, well, we'll just... what am I doing? What have I done? This will break someone's heart, perhaps everyone's. I've created something distinctive and beautiful. It will very likely enhance my reputation. Okay, my name is well known and the work is well done, so... Woof, that's dangerous. Okay, so... Lots of really cool stuff happening here. Oh, that icy atmosphere is a liability, though. I really did a number on this one. Okay, so I am going to attempt to make a special painting, though. So technically, I don't need to, but I kind of want to. So you're back. You had a friend over, and you were listening to the stream in the background. Oh, that's great to hear. I know. I think the majority of people who watch, watch quote unquote, actually have it on as background noise. So I'm glad it's been. Oh, damn it! That's right. This is gonna kill me in a minute. Okay, well, I've got contentment. The contentment is going to expire, though. Yeah, this is dangerous. Okay, so the way I'm gonna handle the... see if there's a way I can store the contentment. I think if I do a painting, I should be able to do that. So that'll give me a bit of wriggle room. Okay, so notoriety will start expiring on its own. I'll get some contentment from this season, so that's good news there. We're all good for the expedition, so no worries about that. Studying, I need to translate another book, so... Obviously, if one of these books generate dread, I'm in deep trouble. Okay, I think I know how I'm going to navigate this. Now, of course, there's the possibility that dread emerges after I do this painting, but we'll see. And of course, a subtle rupture is basically going to get wasted as I deal with these problems. Oh, I should be adding the hint rather than letting that expire. So you get to put cards pretty much any place that you want. More or less, but not every combination is a helpful one. The game will guide you in terms of what cards you can put things into. So I'll try and be a little bit more explicit in what I'm showing. Now, see, if I blow this, this is going to be another... This could be another fascination. I think I'm going to try the Ascent of Knives. Ah! Alright. An urgency of appetite. It's difficult to control oneself. I could potentially summon something kind of cool with this. Talra Best, how you doing? Well, we're getting interesting progress. We have found Marionette, Our Lady of Wires. But I'm also... I'm going to be up 2 Dread in a little bit, which is not so cool. So... Oh, you meant more on the table. Yeah. So, if I, like, one of the ways that I really like to mess with people is just to, like, screw up the placement. I did that once on, like, Steam, and people got very angry with me, so I never did that again. What/who is that? It reeks of rotten blood and clacks its jaw each time it speaks. Perhaps there is a woman huddled beneath the cloth and bones. Perhaps it is some puppeteer's trick. That's as much as I know Talra best. But we'll find out. That I already know something about it, and there's the possibility that we can get sort of an advancement, but I'm not quite ready to do what is required to advance that. So, okay, so important to remember that this icy atmosphere will turn into dread over time. So I need to manage that, but again, I'm trying to put out the fires in a proper order so that I don't completely get smushed. Okay, the Ascent of Knives is called the Sharp Stare and the Mother of Mirrors, and the Feast of the Grail. If one is to look beneath the stare, as I did last night in my dreams, one understands the last name. It draws a tithe of blood from the feet of those who ascend. Impausi, some shaped like men, many shaped like women, wait beneath the glass of the stairs to satisfy their hunger. I did not approach. I made no sound. I only observed. Okay. So I'm going to keep Dream open just so that I can start getting rid of sort of liabilities at this point. Let's try and level up the pawn. Ooh, actually, I've got some ideas here. So we will use the Order of the Bloody Cup. We'll take our pawn. We still need to do a ceremony to level them up, so with the Thackic Invocation. And in this case, I'm actually going to add the Icy Atmosphere because this will eventually become Dread, and I don't think I'm going to have enough to be able to get rid of all of this. So we can start there. I don't have anybody else who I want to send on the expedition right now, so we'll just leave this. We'll leave this be. A timed icon. Sorry, I don't think I quite follow. Oh, what's the time? This timer, you mean? Top corner. Oh! Ah, I didn't know that you hadn't seen one of the... So this is the long. Someone is watching. The immortal in the shadows ponders their next move. So this is Lady Tryphon. No, he cannot harm you. He cannot find you. But I suffer no such circumspection. Tryphon is more likely to use intrigue attacks. Lady Tryphon currently has the aspect of connections level 8. Over time, this long will build up their network in the city, improving their ability to intrigue against us. If it ever reaches 10, the long will consider attacking you directly. Aspect Might. Over time, this long will build up allies and resources in the city, improving their ability to assault us. If ever it reaches 10, they'll consider attacking me directly. And this Size of Starlight. They'll learn the shape of our dreams, improving their ability to strike at us through the mantis. So this is a big bad enemy who's coming to get me. There goes my contentment. Okay, the creeping color. My passions are poisoned. Each pang of emotion brings an answering pang of savage gray. So I'm trying to remember what causes this, but in this particular case, Tryphon is definitely a candidate. This is going to turn into Dread, so this is 100% danger zone territory. Moving right along, I've made something unique, something extraordinary. This definitely did not produce the outcome I was looking for, so I have still the liability of a bitter atmosphere. I do have contentment, which is good. I have an icy atmosphere, unfortunately. I also have dread, so I need to annihilate this dread pronto or I'm dead. These will eventually become something that turns into dread. So I need to make sure that I keep things on an even keel until then. I have notoriety. My passion is pretty significantly exhausted after my creative exertions. Oh, hang on, maybe I did. I've made something unique, something extraordinary, something I will never dare to exhibit publicly. This cannot possibly ever see daylight. It will earn no funds. So I did make it. In this case, the wolf divided. Caput Geralt Lupinium. The sun was divided. This is its wound. Now, really, I mean, I did this just so I could. It's really no better than the, what was it, the Elgabalin Manacle. But it just looks cool. Look at that. Don't you want your own wolf divided? But unfortunately, I maybe could have chosen another time to do that. So, I'm going to think a little bit about the best way to navigate this. So this is just going to decay a level. The other thing that I can do is try and summon something with this, and that will remove the influence entirely. So let's see, we've got, damn it. Let's throw in the icon of St. Agnes and Edge, Heart, or Forge. So Forge is another Callagine. Heart, I think, is a Voiceless Dead. Yeah, I'm not quite ready for that. Edge it is. Happy to take a Maid in the Mirror. Deep Winter's Cold to name and draw the Maid in the Mirror. Edge to match their keen cruelty. Still have the Icy Atmosphere to contend with, but again, what I'm trying to do right now is prevent Dread from going up one rather than any of these other possibilities. Look closer, closer still, closer! Keep looking. Now, close your eyes. So that's what we're doing to the villagers here. Okay, our spy has returned to us, so Saliba is back. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. So for 51 seconds, Contentment is taking this up. There's 2 Dread here, so this will annihilate this 1 Dread, but I'll still have 1 to go with. And I know in 21 seconds this is going to become Dread. So the way I'm going to handle this, I'm going to use the Dread that comes out of this. I'm going to use it to cancel the Fascination. But I can't do that because it'll take 52 seconds for this to go through, so I probably need to hide the Dread if I can. Unfortunate. Then again, this was clearing another Dread, so this was still the right call. Okay, what's the long up to? We don't know yet. I may not be able to get through this, but I'm pretty sure I can. More Aramaic. Of course, we'll probably be finishing an expedition before long, so we'll have another big backlog of books to deal with. And of course, I do need to deal with the affliction at some point. Okay, my passions are poisoned. Each pang of emotion brings an answering pang of savage gray. So the ideal world, I'm able to combine these, but I need to find some way of hiding this Dread for 20-something seconds. And I think my work has actually taken that up too. So my suspicion is that there's no hiding from this Dread, which actually makes this Icy Atmosphere a potential killer. In pain we're born, in hunger we are embraced, in delight we are devoured. These are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays. In remembrance of that promise, we give ourselves to the feast. Okay, so I've got a lively disciple. I've now got a full roster as far as the cult is concerned, but I'm obviously not in a great spot as far as my traits are concerned. So let's just do a quick summary in terms of where I'm at and how I'm thinking about the situation I find myself in. Let's ignore the long completely. In 11 seconds, I'm going to have 1 Dread. However, this is going to come to occupy the new Dread slot. Fair enough. But in 11 seconds, this is going to decay another level down to, I think, a level 4 Winter, which I may not necessarily be able to use against something. So if this is allowed to decay down into Dread, then now I've got 3 Dread. So it's like, okay, well, find a way of generating contentment. It's not that hard, and that's true. But of course, some of the ways that I can generate contentment would be to go to the Ecdysis Club. Well, that's not happening because I'm going on expeditions. Or I can purchase a tincture of opium. Well, all well and good, but at some point I need to deal with the affliction. I actually need to deal with that within 2 minutes, or I'm going to lose that health permanently. and I also only have 1 more minute of the existing vitality. So there's a little bit of a balancing act, and I'm not quite sure the best way to handle it. Also keep in mind that in under 2 minutes, I'm going to start getting a pretty steady stream of afflictions because of my disease. So, who do I talk to? Well, you know what? Let's just start by talking to a patron. I really like the music. It's actually available, so I don't know if you use like Apple Music or Spotify or something like that, but the music is available on those services, and it is actually available to purchase as well. Ever the Salesman. I don't actually get any commissions for that. I just really like the developers behind this game, and I think it's a really cool game. So I bought a copy and I listened to it at work, and I feel like my work is much more mysterious and interesting. Okay, let me think a little bit about my next steps, actually, because I need to also consider the fact that dread has its own aspect. So is there something with 2 edge that I can... Probably not, really, but this is definitely going to get gobbled up. There's really no fixing that, so... Okay, so... the thing that was a woman has no expression of her own. The movements of her eyes and mouth always match mine, as if I was looking in a mirror. Her fingernails are as sharp as glass. So we'll throw her into the expedition. Their bewilderment is our opportunity. We'll pass by in silent secrecy. Okay, so I've got a fleeting remembrance, which if I want, I can combine with the fascination. So I got lucky. Despair abates. Memories of better times keep the wolf from the door. Each contentment destroys 1 dread. That saved me, so I thought this was immediately going to turn over into something that would consume dread, but because it doesn't, I'll now combine... Oh, that's right, so I'm going to use my fascination. So in this case, my... So in terms of what this represents, fascination, like leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. So this is me starting to lose my grip on reality. The doors of vision swing wide. A little darkness will mellow my light. Even dread has its uses. So dread is something you can use to bring yourself back to the world of the common day. So this is the really neat thing about Cultist Simulator, which is that things that are normally a negative for you can actually be transformed into something useful in certain contexts, and it's a theme that I really like a lot. So so in this particular case, we're starting to sort of put out some of the fires. Now I still have the chilly atmosphere to contend with, and this is going to be a little bit harder to deal with because there's not a lot of things that I can do with a two winter influence. I'm even just trying to think of something that I can do to throw it away. Can't really paint it because I have a feeling that's just going to create more dread on its own. I can try and use it in a right, but the catch is if I don't come up with a... I need to be pretty confident in the combination that I do, because obviously I need to lock in the right before I... Oh, actually, no, I don't. I can experiment. So if we offer up the winter, so winter is the aspect of silence. Oops. So let's see what we have here. So winter's the aspect of silence, of endings, and those things that are not entirely dead. If I add knock, I might be able to attempt a summoning. If I add lantern, I can attempt a foolish, beautiful magic. With at least 5 winter and 1 lantern, I could beseech the hour of endings, the sun and rags, to destroy someone, but not someone in particular. The sun and rags alone will choose. Okay, this is gonna be the way that So, the end is beautiful. The sun and rags brings beautiful endings. This sudden and perilous magic will end someone or something, but it's impossible to know what. It It will also kill any mortal or spirit that assists with the Let's try that again. With at least 5 winter and 1 lantern, I could beseech the hour of endings, the sun and rags, to destroy someone, but not someone in particular. The sun and rags alone will choose. Ooh, alright, so the bone flute, this will make it a little more powerful than what I want it to be, so the sun and rags brings beautiful endings. This sudden and perilous magic will end someone or something, but it's impossible to know what. It will also kill any mortal or spirit that assists with the ritual. You are calling only a minor degree of winter, so this will often fail. Call on at least 10 winter to increase your chances, although it might in fact be safer if it does fail. So the sun and rags brings beautiful endings. The sudden and perilous... Okay, we've already read that, so... Sorry, Laidlaw! I hope it fails. Okay. Let's think of some clever ways that I can get some contentment. Alternatively, some clever ways that I can use my talk. Oh, here's a clever way I can use my talk. Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't think of this before. I do actually have additional uses for... Okay. I'm going to leave the talk open for a little bit. The memory of crows. This is the great oak where the masked crow once roosted. Lightning has split it from head to heart, and the tree is charred and rotting. It squirms with finger-length worms. Something glints dully as the swarm of dead roots. I mean, I've never played Dragon Age Talra Best, so I'm not that concerned if I lose Laidlaw. The world does not weep. Brown Joshua found this in a well in Hamath. There's an unlikely story that it was abandoned by Alexander. Oh, we actually read that. Sorry. Not that it's bad to reread, but okay. So we will. What? Oh, I already translated it. My bad. And I'm pretty sure. I mean, it says that I'll learn Fusine after this. I don't know if I'll learn anything else from translating it though. And I do not know Frisian or Vac, so sure, let's just start reading these books. Okay, Season of Suspicion's coming up, so I'm going to need to set aside a Callagine for the occasion. A root coils around an egg, of lead the size of a child. Perhaps it was plated with another metal once, but the weather has removed all trace and any coating. After a struggle, the halves of the egg come apart to reveal its contents. So, of course, more notoriety, because you can't be a useful cultist if you don't have notoriety. It's going to be a little tricky for me to manage my my group, and I actually want to make sure I don't lose the maids in the mirror. Because they will decay into winter aspect, which I'm trying really hard not to generate. The mountains as upon the plain. In the mountains upon the plain, there may not be a path where none is passed. A work by Nigella of Lagash. I thought I had this already, but... Lethe. Now, I believe this is one of the things that I need down to... where did I write this? I wrote this down. I believe Lethe is one of the things that I actually need for the... yes. So I'm actually going to set this aside in a special place. So I need this for the 7 Graces. And we've got a Whispering Amulet, which is sort of weak, but it does have its advantages in the fact that it's both Moth and Grail. So But we'll say that's a moth. Just gonna work these around a little bit. Okay. So just continuing on with the expeditions. So hint is close to expiring, so is Made in the Mirror. We will double these up for funds. I'm curious what happens in 14 seconds. So I can afford to let the Caligian expire for that long. Yes, I do actually find several uses for this Talrabest. Well, one major use for it. I might wind up using it later on in this playthrough, actually, but our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So the hidden door requires lantern or knock. The dry soul course needs heart or lantern. So the good news about this is I can actually cheat and put the Maid in the Mirror in. Now, I don't actually need any of the aspects that the Maid in the Mirror gives. This is purely to preserve her, but I'm going to have 2 challenges. I have already got 2 funds, and the hint has given me 8 lantern. So all that I need to do here is add one of my lantern disciples, and it'll be taken care of. So here I do want to see whether or not there's any remaining winter. Oh, Jesus. Wow, that was one of the most expensive winter uses I've had. Jesus Christ. Snow is settled on every surface in my work chamber. The fire gives it no heat, but I cannot extinguish it, nor can I extinguish the candles which burn with red nimbus and a gold flame and a heart of black. As the ritual reaches its climax, someone, somewhere will conclude. Woo! Oh, Jesus, and I get the dread anyway. Oh my God, that was terrible. That is the worst possible outcome. I also gained fascination, but unfortunately I need to deal with the affliction before, so that sucks. That really sucks. So the net loss on that is a Forge follower. I got the dread, which I was trying to avoid anyway. Ugh. Oh well. So, I can live with the consequences of the human corpse. I'm already in a notoriety problem. Here is how I'm going to be a very brilliant cult leader. We are going to go for Order of the Bloody Cup. We will take Saliba. Damn it! I was going to do one of these, but I actually need one of these. Alright, well, we'll get it out of the way. Only the rare few, those most suited to service in our mysteries, may achieve this rank. So, I am going to do everything I can to hold off the despair. Let's say one of these. I'm also going to take my notoriety. I'm going to paint the human corpse. No, okay. Worth a try. We'll use... Well, no, that's not gonna work. It's still gonna gobble up the dread. Yep, okay. Fair enough. Let's extend out this fleeting reminiscence then. I've also been ignoring, so it's Intrigue that's coming after me, so we can actually send off Rhaenyra to try and prevent this. Now after this exaltation, I do need to use my Callagine. We call upon the Watchman who navigates. Our senses are sharpened. I'm actually gonna... Okay, I'm gonna really play with fire on this one. I'm gonna put this into the assistants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out Pope Clifton in like the last minute. Okay. I was really hoping for some contentment off of that. I also have Forlorn Blood, which means that I'm going to be suffering from sickness before too long. Okay, Clifton. Jesus, I don't know why my mouse is not registering the clicks long enough. I think this is a cultist simulator thing, not a mouse thing. Oof. Serenity in the Blackwood. The travelers discover that they can survive if they close their eyes and adopt a closed eye as their sign, and that they can go unnoticed if they drink from the clear, cold streams, but they never forget that proverbial Footloose the centipede. But they never forgive her either. So I feel like I've got a lot of fascination just sitting around waiting to ruin my day. Oh my god! So the Forlorn Blood is me, Talrabest. I start with this. I have a disease, my blood is wrong, my bones are sick. I'll die, but perhaps I can preserve myself long enough with the holy blood of our delight. Now, the real kick in the teeth about this is that eventually Roland, our delight, will send me some blood, but if I use this blood on myself, I'll gain fascination. So, let's make a plan. The centipede came up out of the sands and went under the roots. She found a new home, but now she can't go home. She creeps everywhere else, keyholes and histories and channels of birth and sight and hearing. Here's what she has to say. I need to preserve fleeting reminiscences, and there's always the chance that painting will make me happy. So we'll do another work, and I'm going to throw my notoriety into it. An account of an occult romance. A certain Iavogos claims to have written this in a single night as part of his initiation into the Alpine branch of the House of Leith, that order of immortals who would not pledge themselves to any hour. Of course, this is going to wind up giving me like fascination or dread, and I'm just going to get killed. But we cast Matthias out, and we pronounced a curse upon the amethyst imago, but we watched them in dreams. We saw them pledge themselves to the forge, to change themselves to ascend anew. Into the fire they fly. Okay, so we'll start reading that. So we'll wait the couple of seconds. Faint lines in stone, a surface that yields to pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shudder and a shower of dust. Okay, So, trembling in the air, the sun flickers like a shadow, dreams ripple behind the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. Fascination may provoke visions. By the copper and the crow, by she whom we hunger, and she who hungers for us, I pledge myself to be the feaster and the feast. I will be devoured, and I will devour. For some reason, I cannot move this window because... frustrating. Can I at least get my stuff back? Yes, I can. So, stained gloves. Did I already upgrade? Oh, that's right, I have my... my Steam overlay disabled, so I have a feeling I probably got some achievement off of this. No, I'll have to move Salib out first, so put him on the deck. There we go, achievement unlocked, a Cyprian. What does this achievement say? I pledged a believer to the Feast of the Grail, so he's now a level 10. Saliba's charisma strikes with the force of a hammer. It is horribly difficult to refuse his desires. Okay, so... I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can do with the talk verb to help me in my current circumstance. And I'm gonna say no. The only other thing that I could think of would be to, like, talk about fascination or dread with Connie, but that's going to generate it, and I'm actually looking to get rid of it. So, Callagine goes into talk. I'm first going to neutralize the fascination I have, because that'll give me a bit of breathing room. Obviously, I have my sickness to contend with, another season of visions, so I at least get a little bit of free time there. Clearly, we need to see what happens with this mood piece. And I mean, in the worst case scenario, I buy some opium to get myself some, you know, some breathing room there. But we'll see where all this goes first. A scandal. Our enemy has engineered a scandal which will roar through all our enterprises like a forest fire. A scandal will intermittently emit notoriety until it unexpectedly dies out. I mean, it can't be worse than the notoriety I'm generating for myself anyway, so... Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. Well, I'm a little busy right now, so I won't do either. But let's see what happens when the painting finishes. Surprise dread! Okay, so more mystique devoured. It's obviously going to be notoriety next time, so I need to prepare for that, but that's fine because the Callagine will deal with the evidence. Okay, my recent work is celebrated. My name is known and my work is done well. So, more mystique for the trouble. Contentment is good. That should get used right away. I don't think I can double that up. Well, maybe I can. So I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else that I can get? It's very unlikely that this is actually going to survive. Well, okay. Against my better judgment, I am going to try using this again. Now, the drawback is it might not... this might have negative consequences. I can't remember. I feel like there's a penalty if you use the same painting subject twice. But even if I'm allowed to sort of like flip this out for when this is looking to gobble something out, if I change this for something better, I'm actually okay with that as well. So we still need to find another source of contentment, but we're in better shape than we were. This is the first of the practices that the Imago and Matthias used to begin their ascent to power. They have risen beyond our sight, but their flames may yet burn in the Mallory. So this is a little disappointing, actually. The shaping chant. The proper words must be employed when the change comes. Use this in a rite with knock influence and a bone flute or other resources of equal power to summon a Caligine. Okay, so I think I'm just going to keep reading books on this one. So we will now read The Deeds of the Scarred Captain, painstakingly assembled by the soldier of fortune and sometimes remittance man Pavel Shuga during his years in Greece. An account of the founding of the Mycenae by a scarred captain who first slew 7 monsters to make the land safe. The Caligine's waiting for the evidence, so we'll keep them there. In 5 seconds, the composure will hit. Now, I'm going to have some time with my affliction, so I'm going to try and use that to get rid of another negative, sort of another negative influence. We'll see what comes up, though. Okay, so good news there. We were able to extend the life of that. But I do need to find a subject for the painting now. So let's say... Who wouldn't want a painting of Saliba on their wall, right? Call upon the Colonel who cannot be denied. The Colonel is a fierce hour, but a power which knows light. He has survived worse. His power will almost certainly protect us. And that's, of course, against the Dry Soul Curse. Okay, the air is curdled now. I am home again in this lumpen flesh. Better, perhaps. So, one cheap way I can get... Actually, you know what? I feel bad about doing this. But... I have the time, so I'm actually going to buy... Oops, wrong one. I am going to buy a tincture of opium. In times of a special crisis, I might visit a discreet pharmacist to purchase a tincture of opium and make my dreams sweet. But only in times of a special crisis. This is an expensive and risky way to gain contentment. It might provoke sickness or despair. So we'll see whether or not sickness or despair hits me, as would be appropriate for this gong show. But if I can get a contentment out of this, that'll basically eliminate this as a threat, and then I can focus on fascination. Oh boy. So the hint's in from the knight. We will we'll send that back immediately. Filthy lies. There is so much we're guilty of, and this is not it. Not at all. And yet it may be what damns us. You just Alt F4 out of Anthem because of a... Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny. I know what that's like. That actually seems to have been... Oh, well, of course that's been happening more often because the game's now available to the public. But yeah, I'm sorry. Cultist Simulator will treat you much better. As you've no doubt heard, I've had nothing but good things to say about this round. It has only given me sunshine and delight. Oh, that deep peace, but I should not do this again. Weather Factory absolutely endorses the use of drugs to overcome despair. No, they do not. Please do not do that. But this has gotten rid of Fraggist 50 bits. Forgot you do this regularly. Well, it's a little challenging, so it's worth reiterating. For those of you who are fans of the Cultist Simulator streams, again, this is probably a little more popular on YouTube than on Twitch, though I always am very grateful for the attention on both platforms. Every third Wednesday, there is a local game developer collective called Dirty Rectangles that I like to visit. And again, like, I am not a game designer. Although I did do a presentation which was surprisingly well received. I think probably easier audience rather than a good presenter. But I have sort of thought, I mean, especially because I'm quite discontent with work and I'm looking for maybe other opportunities. And I would like to get both for my own interest as well as just potential experience. It would be neat if people had a game with some kind of telemetry or just generally some kind of data to work with. I would actually really like to help people. Because, I mean, number one, it's very hard to think of circumstances where more information is a bad thing. And of course, I'm lost without data. Like, generally, if you make up the figures behind your research, that is frowned upon professionally. So, the fact of the matter is that video games can generate fairly large streams of data. Like, in terms of playing, you can put little listeners in without too much trouble. But whether or not you can turn that into useful insight is another question. And clearly, if you are a smaller developer, you are not really going to be able to justify the use of that as opposed to, making the game look good, or making sure that it's playable, or fun, or any of these other things. So it's one of these cases where I have certainly a fairly robust skill set as far as analytics are concerned, but less game experience. And so as both community service, but also an opportunity to try and do something that I would find interesting and hopefully helpful for other people, I have now sort of put my little sign up on the road and said, if you happen to need some opinionated economist to help you make sense of some data that you may have collected, give me a call. So incidentally, if you have some data that you're looking to make sense of, give me a call. But yeah, a couple of people did take me up on the offer, and that was great. I will actually be meeting with them tomorrow, with any luck. But anyways, long story short, so that is an interruption to the usual Wednesday cultist simulator. But one thing I did notice, and okay, so of course I get the contentment after I buy opium, because why wouldn't I, right? But one of the other interruptions as far as YouTube is concerned was I did do a sort of a preview. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, still sick. I did do a little bit of a preview of Under Stranger's Stars, which is currently going through a Kickstarter. And the catch with that is that because I did about an hour of gameplay for it, I think a lot of people, and I mean the thumbnail on YouTube was of Under Stranger's Stars, I think looking at the viewership statistics, most people did not register that as a Cultist Simulator video, even though in the video title it did say Cultist Simulator, but it was like at the end of the title, so unless you are looking at a certain width, you can't see it. So if you are looking for the thing that preceded this particular episode, go look for the Under Stranger Stars video. It's I guess 2 weeks old now. But there was Cultist Simulator 2 weeks ago. It's just that most people didn't recognize it as such because I was in games and demos originally. But yeah, anyways, I do this regularly, and thank you, Sean. I was admittedly very surprised and pleased by the reaction, because I like data, and I actually really miss TAing. I liked teaching. I didn't always get a lot of opportunities to do it. I actually probably TA'd computer science more than I TA'd econ, because in econ I was usually an RA, like I was helping somebody write a paper, not like teaching the material. But yeah, I don't know, like much like I enjoy doing Cultist Simulator streams, I like being able to share something that I'm passionate about and I find exciting and interesting and potentially helpful to somebody in a weird way. And sometimes being able to do presentations is a way to do that. Incidentally, for those of you thinking that economics may or may not, probably more so for the people who think that economics may not necessarily speak to them as a non-specialist, Alexis had an interesting tweet. It was in reply to something that Paul Kilduff Taylor of Mode 7 Games, he put something out. He was going to do a talk to some students. And Alexis made a really good point about not just measuring the time that it takes you to do certain tasks. Even if you do estimates that wind up being totally wrong, there is value in measuring that. So, I mean, this is music to my ears, right? Being able to measure things and, confront your expectations with the reality of what happened is a good thing. But he also said that get used to measuring certain tasks in terms of number of units you need to sell. And this is like music to my ears. Like as an economist, we do this all the time. So like the thing that I did in the producer prices division almost a year ago now, I specifically worked on the price index for computers. Now you'd think that a price index is relatively easy to to get a handle on. I go on Amazon or I go to the computer store and I take a look at what computers cost a year ago, and I look at what computers cost today, and I attribute, any difference between the two I attribute to inflation. And this is completely the wrong way to do this. Because of course, if I were to try and sell you a computer from a year ago, you would not be willing to pay that much. The computer that you could go and buy the store today is a much better computer. And so you would expect a discount for the computer that is older, the one that is the product of older technology. And it's not necessarily just the depreciation of the product itself, it's the fact that your alternatives have become so much better. So the price increase, if you observe it, could be attributed to an improvement, the same way that, yes, the price of the car went up, but that car maybe has like an AI driving assistant and, seat warmers, and I don't know, it reads your mind and figures out exactly the music that you need to listen to, which is clearly the Cultist Simulator soundtrack, available now on Steam, Apple Music, Spotify. Buy lots. Buy some for your friends. Anyways, so if you want to measure inflation, which is what you do, there's consumer side of inflation, but like my little specialty and the thing that I find the most interesting, and I find it interesting because nobody else finds it interesting, is the producer side, the people who make things and the prices that they face. So what you want to do is you want to disentangle the technological change from the pure price change. The pure price change is inflation. The technological change is an underlying characteristic of the computer. So it's like, okay, well, that's fine. We'll just take last year's model and what it costs today compared to what it cost at the time. But that's still not the right way to do it, because, of course, the computer from last year is a year old. It's a used computer. And it's going to be priced differently for other reasons. What you normally want to do is you want to say, Apple comes up with a new iMac or something like that, and you say, had this iMac existed a year ago, what would it have cost? What would it have cost to get the 8 gigabyte, 64 core, 200 gigabyte of RAM, monster, Bitcoin, just, automatic generator, beauty machine? What would that have cost a year ago? And my whole job that time was to actually come up with a model that would simulate those imaginary prices. So all of this is to say that this is very similar. Essentially what you want to do is you want to compare like with like, and you want to think in terms. Essentially, you want to be able to define the trade-off, and you want to be able to define what you're giving up in order to obtain something in terms that make sense. And if you're developing a game, particularly if you're developing a game as a commercial product, if you say it's like, okay, I want to hire Mary Beth Solomon to do the wonderful music from Cultist Simulator for my game, and you find out, well, she's made music for IMAX movies and really good, and charges, an amount that is equal to her talent, like, oh wow, that's really expensive, but it's really good, so maybe it's worth it. In order to be able to afford this, I will now need to sell X units of my game. And of course, X units of your game is how much revenue you will get, not, and this is after Steam's take and whatnot, so chop 30% of that off right away. Basically, being able to define actions that you will take in terms of the number of units you need to sell in order to justify it is speaking in a language that probably makes a lot more sense to a developer than saying, this will cost $1.6 million. Well, yes, but if I sell 1,000 copies of the game at, $160,000 a copy, then that's really, that's very sensible. So I don't know, like, so far as I can tell, Alexis does not have a degree in economics, but it is a very, like, in terms of my day-to-day work, in terms of most of the things that I do in order to try and make models make sense, or to try and explain, somebody gets out of high school and should they go to university or should they go and work right away? To be able to define those trade-offs, to put things on an equal footing, and to be able to say, here is the thing that here's what they're most likely to do because this will work out best for them as defined through, the following arguments. I find it a very helpful skill. But this is the big thing. Like, very few of you, if any, are going to go and calculate a price index in your life. And that's great because that gives me job security. But that doesn't mean that an economic way of thinking in terms of, precise measurements and thinking of the trade-offs, opportunity costs, should I spend another year polishing my game or should I make a new one? That was the Periscope that I put out a couple days ago. Basically, you don't need to have a degree in this stuff to get use out of it. And I actually kind of like it when professionals talk in those terms because it makes me feel like when I use these tricks myself, that I'm not just inventing something that is convenient for me as an analyst, that these are things that people actually find useful in their own work. Anyways, sorry. Fragist is saying some very kind things about econ, especially after the bits. So thank you. You have a background in law and political science. You like people that cut through BS. I mean, the funny thing is I've wound up having to read a lot of law because I do a lot of intellectual property stuff, and then political science I like quite a bit because the thing that I did in school a lot was political economy. So what I'd usually do is I'd take some political science papers that I thought were really interesting, but sometimes the abstract wrote a check that the paper couldn't cash. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm such a hot shot with my empirics, why don't I just try and fix the problems that I think are in this paper? It was it made me appreciate, the really good ideas in those papers, first of all. But number two, it was also a good exercise for me to try and keep myself honest and try and move up through the process of trying to, address what I personally thought were shortcomings. So, yeah. I mean, I'd have to be paid pretty well to do finance stuff. I used to work for a bank a long time ago, and it's. I don't disrespect. I do think banks actually perform a necessary function in society, but I don't know. Like you don't go to the type of division that I go into to get rich. I originally went there because I thought there would be opportunities to work with interesting data that I couldn't access somewhere else, and that contract hasn't quite been fully held up. The producer prices was great, but my home division isn't necessarily making good on that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, there are more important things than money, even though my 93 funds certainly indicates I think otherwise. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't like being bored, and I mean, some of the trading stuff, there are some very interesting problems to deal with inside of it, but I can't necessarily say that I'm, they'd have to pay me really well to make already rich people richer, let's say. Anyways, thank you very much, guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna, I wanted to get that digression out of the way. We'll be back to gameplay in just a second. I'm actually running over time, but I figured it was an interesting one, and I really appreciate the extra bits there, Fragist. Thank you. And Telra says, "Good luck. You find this game is sometimes good to just stop and let things run down, go into hiding as it is and regroup." Oh no, it's totally fine, Frank. I do this all the time. So, because I mean, so one of the before I go back into the game, like it's I'm having a little bit of a hard time coming up with a toehold in terms of the Apostle legacy and specifically as it relates to me. But like the Aspirant legacy really does speak to me as something. I mean, this game overall definitely reminds me a lot of grad school. Like, you know, the fact of the matter is, if you're trying to do research out in the frontier, there is no, like, you know, Running Cults for Dummies book that you can get. And similarly, there's no, there's no, that research paper you want to do, here's the book that already did that original contribution you want to make. It's an original contribution. Nobody's done that before. You can be guided by the people who've come before you and looked at how they have solved similar or related problems in the past. But ultimately, you need to push forward yourself. And what you usually do is you read a few textbooks, you learn some methods that you need to know to be able to go forward. And that's exactly what's happening here. We get little pieces of information about what's really going on. We combine them and we gain new insights. And I mean, again, for somebody who's not that far out of grad school, that's something that speaks very clearly to me. The Aspirant is probably the one that, because I was also doing school in Vancouver, which is not the cheapest city to live in. It's definitely one that spoke to me very, very closely. But I also don't think that that's unique. I think a lot of people can relate to what's going on in this game. It's a cool story about like cults and hidden mysteries and summoning alien gods and whatnot. And there's a bit of a sense of humor, and there's, mistakes like, oh my god, I just killed Mike Laidlaw because I wanted to try and get rid of the dread. But I mean, again, it's very easy to throw yourself into this game. And so when I go on these sort of personal digressions, sometimes, I mean, one, it's kind of the interaction with the audience, but number two, it's because in the end, this game does bring that out. It's perfectly fine to enjoy this game on a surface level as just a strange little Lovecraftian story. But the fact of the matter is that there's not something more going on here in the sense of there's some like great truth about the world that's being communicated, like in the sense that, Alexis is some guru and, Lottie is the high priestess of the one true faith. But thank you kindly for the subscription, Fraggist. I'll let Indiana Jones work its way through. But yeah, no, in the sense of like, this game is touching on things that happen in life. Like, if the great work is that book you always wanted to write, or the game you wanted to make, or the paper, or, that painting, or whatever it is, right? The real world is not always helpful in pursuing those ambitions. You need to keep a roof over your head. You need to keep fed. If you have dependents, you need to make sure that they are taken care of. You could be, in your heart of hearts, the world's greatest dancer. You could be the next Fred Astaire. And it also happens that you have a kid, and it is completely impractical to go to Hollywood, and there's no local film industry. And so how are you going to marry this great passion and talent that you have with the practicality of the fact that you don't just need to take care of yourself, but there is another person who you care about that you also need to take care of? That's a really interesting tension. I mean, these make for good stories. They make for a good, and, let's face it, this is a narrative game. It might be told in cards, but it's something that doesn't mean that you can't tell a story. It's a very well told story in this one because it's easy to pour yourself into it. And so in some ways, if I tell you this in person, then everybody gets really sad, and it's like, oh, I hope this person's able to pursue their dreams. But when it's a wild story about cults and alien gods, and you get to kill your boss, and you get to, ascend to the heavens or something like that, as with all good fiction, there's sometimes a few little life lessons. Like sometimes things that seem like negative forces are ones that can be inverted and actually are just what you need at that moment to keep yourself grounded. There's little things like that. Lots of self-care in this story. To me, it's why I keep coming back to this, because there's a lot to relate to in the game, and it's why I don't mind stopping and doing these digressions, because I think in the end, playing this game is just an opportunity to, if not have a little bit of introspection, at least be able to appreciate a good story well told. So, I did solve the dread problem, Verb Crew. And sorry guys, I am actually gonna get back into the game. But Talra did have a question though. Can you ask if you know about how it is possible to directly attack an investigator? You don't mean sending a minion, you mean in person. I would have guessed it's health. I think I got to try to do that once, but I don't recall exactly, Talra Best. I would need to experiment. All right, as a captain destroys each monster, a flood of blood rises higher until the last priestess drowns and is reborn as a serpent goddess. She blesses the captain, and he departs for the house above the forest, leaving the Mycenaean to reign supreme after the flood of blood subsides. Okay, so technically the despair is still here, but we've got our last contentment. I bought opium for it, but as it turns out, I did a painting that produced contentment anyway, so that was unnecessary. But hey, opium's fun, right? And because I have a leftover fleeting reminiscence, I was able to preserve that in painting before this gobbled it up. And so essentially what it wound up being was I was able to run out the clock on a few things that I knew I had some time for, and then when it came down to it for a couple of other things. I'm wondering where the sickness went. Oh, I'm already healing it. But yeah, basically it was just kind of a question of making sure that everything that needed to be in the queue was in the queue. And I went for the conservative choice and purchased a tincture of opium, but it ultimately turned out to be unnecessary. So it turned out in the end. Okay, let's keep reading because it's less dangerous to do so. Their endeavor was no less noble, a furious arcane conflagration which would refine them into something more than human, but such transformations are rare, and they often ended less nobly in ashes. Now, the other thing I need to be careful about is that with this Forlorn Blood, so I can buy my way out of my health problems, but of course Douglas is forever going to be a thorn in my side as far as the season of ambitions is concerned. So the visions abate. The solidity of the everyday banishes phantoms. I tether myself to the everyday. Each fleeting memory quells one fascination. Okay, Callaghan is still in the queue. Treasures lie before us. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. Well, the other neat one too about this Fragist is that sometimes what's being referred to in these is not necessarily so they're the same places as in history, but there are alternative histories inside of this game. Oh, I screwed up. I should have spent money on the paints, but anyways. Turns out it's coming out better than usual. Magnificent work. Didn't even need to pay money for it. So yeah, in this case, I'm not 100% sure if that's one that's referring to the drat. Well, I mean, we don't have the fascination anymore, so I don't need to worry about that, but clearly I've been painting too much. The But yeah, so like in this case, I can't remember if it was that particular work or one of the other ones, but there's sort of some stories of Alexander who ultimately did not pursue his military conquests. I can't remember if that's related to that particular book. Oh, about Cultist Simulator? Yeah, I mean, and I would argue that my VODs are not necessarily the best place to learn about them because, I mean, I'm learning the game myself. I'm still discovering things about it, but it's certainly a fun ride. And you're absolutely right about history. Somebody said that like it's impossible to be bored by history because it's basic. Like as far as a story is concerned, it's everything. Like it's every genre in one, and it's totally true. I do have a couple history things that'll actually be coming up on the stream, but I'm not gonna say any more about those because Johnny knows exactly what's gonna happen, and I think he's a little angry at me that I haven't been doing it. Okay, so a dream attack will be coming up. Whether or not we get Rhaenyra out in time is another question. And the investigator is currently generating evidence. Fascination's coming up again, but I don't need to worry too much about it because, well, unless my studies produce it. Partridge claims to have identified consistent features among those who ascended. All of them had passed the stag door and were accounted no. All of them spoke the Calendate invocation or the greater rite at the start of their ascension, and all of them were rich. So, a mere ardent orison. Now, technically, because I've just got this really unhelpful tick that makes me want to keep one of all the previous ones, so now I could double this up and get another shaping chant, but because I would only have 2 shaping chants, I can't really move it up. But although I'm just thinking, I wonder if this is enough forge to get me up through the spider's door. I need to think about that a bit. Anyways, behind a rotting tapestry of wolves hunting men, a paneled wall, in the paneled wall a secret door. The spring is long gone, of course. We had to smash it in with hammers. That's great to hear, Fraggist. And by the way, if you know the time that you're going to be streaming, do let people in chat know, because I know, like, my style is very limited in terms of its appeal to some people, and so some better perspectives or different perspectives are really appreciated. So don't, and that goes for anybody inside the channel. Obviously, there's quite a few people, surprising number of people here, to be honest. Thank you. If you are a streamer of this game, like, don't be, I mean, obviously it's nice to wait for permission for this stuff, but at this particular moment, don't be shy. Like, if you do stream this game and you would like people who are interested in it to check out your stuff, please do use this opportunity to say, you know, who you are and when you'll be streaming it next, because I know there's certainly no shortage of appetite for coverage of this game, it seems. So, the last treasure of the Comte de Reveline lie here, in a surprisingly airy room. High skylight windows have long since broken, and the floor is lost underneath leaves and debris. But once the place was furnished as a nursery. Here is a cradle with the skeleton of a puppy. So, made in the mirror. Hint. Okay, so Cinnabar Amulet, that'll be helpful for... This will be a replacement for Laidlaw. More Grey Dawn oil, although of course I've already got my fancy Wolf Divided. The Book of True Blood, so another Latin text to translate. The highest mystery is the innermost chamber of our church solar, secret rites of the Church of the Unconquered Sun, which held power in the last 2 histories. So I still don't know Frisian. I think that, no, Fusine. Oh, I do know that then. Excuse me. And the Morphe Codex, the text of the Sisterhood of the Knot, unearthed by Evan Morphe, and that is in Aramaic, so I can translate that. Okay, well, we got to jump back straight into the expedition. So in this case, I'll take a Maid in the Mirror and a hint. So this is Fermier Abbey. Robert Fermier spent much of his unsavory fortune on the endowment of this monumental, forest-crowded abbey. The monks dislike visitors. Their ways are not exactly orthodox. They celebrate a certain harvest festival with unsavory vigor. Fermier Abbey folded into the forest like a jewel box smuggled in a green robe. If we can make it through the forest, we'll have to face the monks. Expeditions need at least 1 funds per obstacle, etc., etc. So Maid in the Mirror is going to sort of wind down a bit. I can, the Maid in the Mirror and the Callaghan can have a nice chat. Now, there is a danger. I wanted to hold off on what seems to be a winter text. Brown Joshua found this in a well in Hamath. There's an unlikely story that it was abandoned by Alexander during his retreat from Issus. So in this particular case, I have a worry that I might get dread as a result of this, but I mean, I gotta read it at some point, and we don't have a season of despair coming up. So the unknown adept who wrote this proclaims, "The world forgets, but the ivory dove does not." The text contains a number of prescriptions for ensuring that certain acts are remembered, including a rite which requires a sacrifice in a particular monstrous mode. Talra says, "Is there a flower petal book antique among the books that left behind the altar after use?" You mean in the place that I was just at? I don't think that's the expedition, Talra Best, but I might be wrong. Nothing. My words cease like sand and glass. So again, we'll talk to the Callaghan. We'll put the Maid in the Mirror here just to preserve her. I don't have anything to worry about for the fascination at the moment. Alright, I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So, now I can move the maid over. We can move the tentative evidence where it needs to go, and now we can see what's coming up in the Abbey. So our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. We can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So long ago, the primal trees marched from sea to sea. Some trace of their reign still survive, like this dense and choking territory of root and thorn. The practicalities of forge or the mysteries of moth may see us through. So that is a bit of a bummer. Because I don't really have any forge and moth to work with. Monks, contemplatives, blessed or condemned to service here. They're bound by their curious vows. We can murder them or deceive them, but they will not be seduced. So this is obviously a moth job, which means that the Maid in the Mirror is going to be out in the cold for longer than I would really like her to be. I think what I'll do here, I'm going to be a little sneaky and move the tentative evidence to the side. So I'm just going to wait for the timers to run down a little bit more. Nope. More notoriety. Filthy lies! There's so much we're guilty of, and this is not it. Not at all. And yet it may be what damns us. How tough is the maid? I mean, she's like... Isn't she something like 9 edge or something like that? She's, or 10 edge. I usually want to keep them, but... what I'm essentially doing here is I'm preserving the maid long enough to get as many moth people in as I can. I do want to make sure that the tentative evidence goes in before my chat with the Callaghan is done. And of course I want the Callaghan to become available as quickly as possible because they will be able to get me through the woods. So in the worst case scenario, I add a few moth disciples and we try our luck. And in the best case scenario, the Callaghan becomes available and I add them to the expedition. So anyways... More filthy lies. Adim has his manuscript. Well, he doesn't have his manuscript, but the manuscript for Adim is done. I don't really have any influence to summon new things with. I could, of course, try resummoning some of these creatures, but I'm not going to. Instead, I think I'm just going to go work on a heart commission while I try and heal myself from my illness. Okay, so it's a level 4. And I'm going to be wrapping up fairly soon, but what I do want to do is I just want to get all these little... So one of the problems I run into sometimes is after playing the game, or not playing the game for a week, like I'm not going to remember to take the Maid in the Mirror out and replace it with tentative evidence. So I kind of want to get myself into a steady state where I'm like, okay, I can manage I can manage what I've got here. So. All right, let's go for dream. I'm going to try something. So in my dreams, I know the path through the silken sands to the spider's door. If I slake its thirst by spilling fresh blood before I sleep, it will open for me. All right, I thought I might be able to use the Calendate Invocation. What about Moth? Nope, Moth won't help me. I don't think Heart is the right thing for the spider door. And it can't be a secret history. Edge seems more like that, but yeah, not enough edge. So unless I find a body to throw into the spider door, I'm gonna wind up sleeping. And I'm not just gonna throw away another follower for the heck of it. We call upon Moth who is dappled. Shadows dapple the path. Perhaps the path is one Moth has given us. Probably it is. Probably we'll make it through. And probably we'll add Yzabet. The wood beneath the mantis is darker even than this place. The Moth will guide our footfalls. Success is very likely. So 24 seconds before I switch out the Maid in the Mirror. I probably should have waited on this because it would have been nice to have the heart recovery. Alright, the world does not weep. The hours tried to bury the memory of what happened to the wheel, the flint, the tide, and the seven coiled, but the dove won't permit it, nor will he permit what happened to the first egg to be forgotten, although it is perhaps the one thing that the watchman might ever forgive. So we've got the right of the beasts division. The assistant's name is taken from them in a place or an occasion of power, and they are divided into 9 parts. They are used to be hunted like an animal too, but times changed. And the invocation of the ivory dove, which we don't have yet, so there's a power that commemorates and grieves, from whom nothing is taken, but who cannot be deceived. You might expect to be able to crush him in your hand into bird bone fragments. Okay, so we're 6 seconds away. I'm going to try and ride this out as long as I can. 3, 2, 1. This is good. This is not good. And tentative evidence for my Callagine to deal with. Okay, so Season of Ambition's coming up. Of course, Douglas might wind up eating the ambition, so I need to prepare for that possibility. I'm gonna move my languages to the side so I can add the right to the list, and we will study our last untranslated text. The Devoured Tantra warns of the uses and dangers of appetite, but devotes an entire passage to the star-limbed hunger bringers, who it describes with obvious affection. Okay, and I think that will let me get out of the stream tonight, because we've got a Season of Ambition coming up, so that's a good place to start. The treatise is underway. We're reading our last book. There's something up ahead. We've made it through the forest, so we'll either use the 18 edge to take on the monks, or we'll use the 10 moth to deceive them. And then this will send me into like some kind of a nightmare or something like that, but not much to go with. So the Maid in the Mirror and the Affliction are going to be the things that I need to use in future. I'll put them beneath those verbs on their own. Obviously, I've got a ton of notoriety to work with. This will tick down on its own. I think most likely we will probably lose these 3 to attrition. I'm actually I'll rearrange my board just to accommodate that. So 226. So yeah, most likely we'll lose these before there's another investigation. This one's still a potential risk. These ones are almost certainly going to get picked up by Connie. And then, of course, I've got Fascination to worry about now. I have Fleeting Reminiscence right now. Again, if Douglas winds up taking this Season of Ambition, then it means that I'm going to be spending a lot of resources on clearing my afflictions, and I hope I don't get a season of Visions in time for when I eat the blood. But so there's a couple of things that I thought were interesting. There's a couple of interesting things that happened this stream that may not be obvious for everyone. I'm sorry, I've kind of been not staring at chat, and this is just because I want to try and wrap up, and actually one of my contacts fell out, so I can't read chat at the moment. I apologize, because I do see my name highlighted in a couple of messages. I'll try and get through it as quickly as I can. And obviously my health is declining a little bit because I'm sniffling a lot. But we did find Marionette, Our Lady of Wires, and I don't quite want to give up a follower yet, so I'm not going to feed someone to her, because the possibility here is that this is like a temporary buff that she gets, and I'm going to have to like feed another follower to her. So I don't want that to happen. In addition, we got the Lethe, so we are we're only two, like, things away from making progress with the vitulation. So, I need the Aramanthine Nectar still, which we don't have, and then we also need the True Blood of Saint Inarius, I think. I can't remember exactly what it was. I've seen this in a previous playthrough, but I don't think I have it right now. I think that might be a knock. I can't remember, to be honest. But yeah, so we do have one of the requirements to prepare the 7 graces, which eventually will become an input to the vitulation recipe, as well as, using a bunch of mystique or notoriety to get people in. The mystique and notoriety won't be a problem at this point. So we're getting more and more pieces together as far as the feast is concerned. But of course, over the course of time, the Long has also become much more powerful. They're going to come and attack me in dreams. Unfortunately, my agent has not left. I can't have 3 people in here without that coming back. And they're at 8 strength, so it's very likely that on the next stream they will become stronger, and there will be nothing that I can do about it. Anyways, stay tuned for next week. I will save and exit. I'm now going to try and lean in a little bit and see. Flower Petal, a unique one among books left behind after you got it there now above the 5th grade. Oh, I'm sorry, Talra. Now I know what you're saying. Can I answer that next stream? I apologize. I think it's a unique one, but I don't remember. I think if you go to the Frangiclave, though, it will say as well. The pinky one in the mountain is upon the plain, the book with the weird ones that stay after use. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, Talra, but I completely did not recognize what you were saying until... Well, actually, I can go in and say whether or not it's unique. I don't think it'll be that... Yeah, because it's paused. Unique, can only exist once. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. Most of you are already out already, but I do always like to give a host. So obviously, if there's another Cultist Simulator stream, do feel free to head over to them. That's obviously really cool. But I know we just hosted them yesterday, but I am actually really looking forward to doing this again. We have got Cool Eagle. And the reason why I want to host Cool Eagle tonight is that he's getting a first look at a game called Space Haven. I believe the developer reached out to him and is kind of doing hey, this is a new game, I want to see what's going on. I always like to host these kinds of streams because this is how I found Cultist Simulator. You don't get to find a new game that you fall in love with if you don't look for them. So, yeah, let's stop over by Cool Eagles. Obviously, you already know him. His mod was already in here to offer up a Cultist Simulator key, and yeah, I don't know. If you guys want to go check out more Cultist Simulator, there's one going on. Please do not hesitate to click on that link and go on. Please do support other Cultist Simulator streamers. I'm certainly very happy when you guys stop by and are so pleasant here, or even if you just stop by and give me a concurrent viewer, it's always helpful. But on top of that, it's nice when, in the end, right, a lot of streamers, myself included, do respond to attention. And on the margins, if you're trying to pick what game to stream, you know, if there's one where you can rely. So there's actually some games which I really enjoy, but I'm very reluctant to play because it attracts a certain audience which is not really compatible with my style. And it's a shame because I actually really enjoy a lot of games. So one of the things I will say, like the really nice comments that I've been getting, also on YouTube as well as inside of chat, really do encourage me. I mean, it's not just that I really like Weather Factory. It is a really nice audience that comes out to check out this sort of stuff. So that means a lot to me. And again, if I've not individually said thank you to you on YouTube, I'll try and do that. But please know that I do read everything that people send, including the things where people tell me how to play the game, and I immediately delete them because I don't want to be told how to play the game. But that's happening less. I think people have sort of figured this out now. But no, it really does mean a lot, and I can say not just from my own experience, but also modding for people in that. It does mean when there's a pleasant audience and when people show up and support streams, it is much more likely that people will stream the game. And we all benefit from that, obviously, because I know I'm not the only Cultist Simulator streamer in the world. And it's good that I'm not, because this game definitely deserves as wide of an audience as possible. But with that in mind, we are going to be stopping by the Cool Eagle. Please do come along, take a look, even if it's not your thing. Taking the time to look at something new, you know, it's very low cost and it potentially has a huge benefit to it. So I do encourage you to do that. Feel free to say, oh wait, that's the shout out, not the raid, my bad. We're tired of system talk. I heard this place was better. I'm going to go deal with my sniffly nose. I will be back on Friday. I'll probably play a little more Catherine, but we'll see where the muse moves us. If you only hear for Cultist Simulator, that will be coming up next week. So Wednesday for the live broadcast. And if you only want to hang around for the VODs, I will try and be prompt with it. If I can, I put them up on a Thursday or a Friday, but life very frequently gets in the way of that sort of stuff. So one way or the other, I am definitely committed to, some of the other VODs. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for the Cultist Simulator stuff, I 100% commit to having it up as soon as I can. So if you don't see a Cultist Simulator video and it's not the third Wednesday of the month, it is probably because something happened to me that prevented me from hitting the upload button. I am now going to shut up. Please, please treat the Cool Eagle well. I will see you guys on Friday if you just want to hear me rant about whatever, and I'll see you guys next week if you want to watch Cultist Simulator. Have a lovely night and dream furiously.